keep it. And they're going to once again clear out wards. Make sure the top esports have to go for a reset, and at that point, then they can safely take down the Baron. But it's suffocation here, and not wanting to make any risks on this map as Mako possibly caught out. There's a handshake. He puts up the door. He's soaking a lot of damage, but Faker dives in. He picks up Tien, who does have the twisted advance to try and get forward, but Zeus, it's once again the barbecue, and Faker is taken down. Trees on top of it. Jackie Love dies off the back end. Faker, he even had the bailout available. He was never going to die, and that is a clean ace for T1.
Such a decisive victory from T1 to bounce back on this one. They don't risk the Baron flip, and when the engage comes through, they connect on every single target. 5-0 ace, looking to end the game here.
Mako has to check. They have no vision. Somebody has to go in. If they don't, the Baron is lost. They walk right in to this chain CC composition. The snipe from Zeus with the equalizer, and T1 are going to equalize this series.
Yeah, and that is stomp after stomp, but on other sides of the rift, ladies and gentlemen. As the Nexus goes down, we have an even series here for the final of EWC, and we wouldn't have it any other way. It is now time for us to go to a short break, and after that, Studio's gonna break it down.
Honor 200 series, the best portrait phone AI empowered. Studio level, AI portrait camera, 3 hardcore portrait modes. Color, vibrant and classic to capture portraits that truly stand out. AI empowered magic portal. Snapdragon 8S Gen 3 AI chipset. 5,200 milliampere per hours silicon carbon battery, 100 watt, Honor Supercharge. This is Honor 200 series.
T1 come roaring back here in game number 2 against Top Esports. Despite some nice early game moves by Top Esports, they awoken the beast. They awoken the unkillable Demon King, and they strike back. 1-1 is our score in this best of 5 grand finals here at the Esports World Cup, presenting League of Legends. What a way to come back here by the LCK representatives after there was a worry that maybe they weren't as invested as they needed to be to become the winners, but they find their way back on in, and they are now tied on up. Welcome back to the area, Degon alongside Joshi and Valdez. What a game here by T1.
Honestly, I was a little bit worried after seeing what had happened in game 1, and even at the very beginning of this game, Valdez, where we got to see that Top Esports were actually the one launching into some of these early advantages, but they were just too resilient.
This is exactly what I wanted to see out of T1. I think that they drafted excellently. This is them playing their game. They take away the Tristana. They first pick the Rumble, which makes a lot of sense, but then the follow-up of Ahri Vi is just pure T1. That's what they love to do, be very proactive in mid-jungle, and they made it work, right? It was pretty excellent drafting, I would say. I was a little bit confused to see the Ezreal come through, but, you know, even though Jackie Love did have a lot of moments on that, even solo killing Gumayusi, wasn't quite enough individually to get the job done.
Yeah, again, good response here by T1. Top Esports looking so dang dominant in that first game, and throughout the whole tournament, they've had champ pool, I guess, advantage over everyone here. You're thinking, here comes yet another iteration of a different tree in the jungle. This time it was Maokai instead of the Ivern, being able to play the AD mid laner with the Yone, but T1 have the answers here.
And that's really what we wanted to see. I think this kind of goes back to, like you were saying, Valdez, a return to T1 just being very good at the game and knowing what champions are good at and just finding more opportunities for it.
Yeah, well, let's take a look at the highlights from this game number 2. Early action here on the top side of the map.
I feel like we've seen this one before, Valdez. It is yet again Zeus going into a teleport towards the top side. Maybe not expecting this one as it was super early on in the game, but the result still is the same. We get to see a little bit more of how all this plays out as we actually get to see more plays around the grubs, where we get to see Top Esports a little too aggressive.
Yeah, that teleport play, as you mentioned, a little bit less egregious than the one we saw the other day. And yeah, just overextending there a little bit was Top Esports on the grubs. You don't necessarily have to do that, especially when you are going up against Ahri Vi and Rumble, who can immediately collapse and immediately find picks. And that's exactly what they did. They capitalized very quickly.
I feel as though Top Esports got a little bit baited into that last play simply because there was a teleport top lane where Faker got some kills, and 369 came top lane and did the exact same thing. Top Esports like, oh, there's surely no way that T1 are going to contest it for the grubs, but turns out they didn't believe him.
Yeah, they left hand high and dry, which leads us to our second one. Time for some new tech. Joshi, let's show him the telestrator.
Yeah, so this was one of the big moments where I was actually looking at where I was really worried for T1 at the beginning of this play, because when we look at it, this is where the Vi and Ahri are supposed to be at their strongest. We'll take another look through it, because as we actually go for the play, we see that Faker and Owner, they try and go back as I rewind just a bit, but because Faker is so far away from this play, it becomes really difficult for Faker to actually line up. And then as we clear everything, we actually see that as soon as everything misses, it turns right around, and instead of Faker and Owner taking down Tian and Cream able to just dogpile their way onto Faker in a way that was not supposed to be how this is going to go. We'll take another look at how it actually plays out, but this is definitely a spot where we were looking for Cream and Tian to fall behind in some of these 2v2s.
Yeah, sometimes it's just a difference of milliseconds. It felt like Faker was a little bit late on the first initial charm, and then eventually he did it after he got collapsed on. So, you know, the Ahri Vi, they're expected to be the ones being proactive, finding picks, as you were saying, but eventually it was Faker who did get collapsed on. Thankfully for T1's sake, they did, after this very play, do it multiple times where they put together the Ahri and the Vi and did a great job.
Yeah, well, here we go. Let's take a look at that in the mid lane, under the tower. Top Esports starting to aggress against T1, but then a great ulti from Zeus, who's been under a lot of scrutiny over this whole tournament, lands an equalizer, and it just sets up T1 to clean up.
Honestly, this play was beautiful. Just seeing that Zeus throws down the equalizer and catches every single member does a ton of damage, and also sets up the rest of his team to just catch up to a Top Esports that probably would have made it out otherwise.
Yeah, I think top getting caught a little bit flat-footed there, and Zeus, he hasn't been perfect in the laning phase by any means. Lots of questionable teleports, the fights that he shouldn't be taking, but when it comes to team fights, he will get the job done.
Yeah, and again, under a microscope here because you had the multiple TP play against TL early on in that game number 1, getting bullied out. We talked about the Cassante play, trying to pull back the Ivern or whoever was under the tower and just getting blown on up. Good to see a little bit of a reaction here by Zeus as we take a look at the final highlight here as T1 close it on out.
This is honestly another textbook play coming from T1. As we got to hear the casters call out, this is Top Esports trying to find their way towards the Baron because they have absolutely no vision. T1 never doing the Baron at all. They're just looking for these big plays. They're able to take down every single member in this last one. And T1, as we got to see, just close it out immediately. They never even needed the big purple warp.
Yeah, it's another relatively short game, not quite as short as game number 1, but they take that lead. They, as you mentioned, cut out all the vision, and essentially the second that Top Esports overextend, they're ready to collapse and get the game going. So I was a little bit worried for T1 after game 1, but I'm glad that they come back in this fashion.
Yeah, it's definitely been like that for, I guess, since the summer here for T1, where it's you need a little bit of that extra motivation. You drop that first game, you get run over, and then they wake on up here. Good draft, great execution. What do you think was the big difference here by T1?
Like I said before, I think this is a return to form. This is everything that T1 could have possibly wanted. We've seen every single one of these players play these champions multiple times in the past, and it kind of doesn't matter what the meta is if you are just that good at the champions you're known for.
Opposite side here, Valdez. Top Esports also loaded with world champs. What does it require for them to get back to the game number 1 form, or was this T1 waking up here?
Well, I think it's a bit of both. I think it's really going to help Top Esports to move back over to the blue side and have a little bit more freedom in the draft. And we'll see if they are able to get their hands on the Tristana this time around or some of those bigger picks, because I feel like T1's response in game 2 was great. They closed out, they took away some of those really important picks, the Tristana being the big one that we keep mentioning for a good reason. You get them off of some of that comfort, you force them into kind of a hole, and then you draft comfort for yourself with the Ari, and it just feels so good. And it feels like any team on the blue side also who gets that first pick Rumble ends up just winning. I feel like that champ is, well, it's pretty good.
Yeah, it turns out there's a lot of power picks still in the meta here, Degon. No matter what, blue side will be getting at least one of them and can deny almost all of them from their opponents.
Yeah, you know, when we go through some of those strongest champions so far in the meta, we've talked a lot extensively about the Tristana in the mid lane. Obviously, the Rumble getting off the ban list here. Kalista was one that was perma-banned over in the LCK. When I think about game number 1, impactful without necessarily being dominant. The Ashe was one that was coming up across the map as Jackie Love was able to set up the rest of his team. What are some other ones that you want to see start to pop on up here, Joshi?
The trees are really going to be speaking in this one. Ivern and Maokai have been so strong, and we've gotten to see exactly how Top Esports in particular have brought these champions to the forefront of the meta. I think it's just having an extra champion that Top Esports is really going to have to prevent T1 from playing just because of how strong Top Esports have been able to do so.
Before we go to break, Valdez, final thoughts here, 1-1 going into the final now best of 3.
I feel like whichever team figures out red side first will be the victor of this best of 5. Both teams have had very dominant blue side wins. They've dominated from the draft, and their play has shown up in a big way. So I feel like if one team can figure out how to draft in the red side against their opponents, they might just take it.
Y'all at home, let us know how you feeling. You got the T1 fighting, or you got the Top Esports Gios? Let us know in the chat. We're going to get the Kadia Arena all set up for the next game, game number 3. Let's see who takes the lead here in our grand finals.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Esports World Cup presenting League of Legends. We've got a roundtable conversation here for you. I'm Degon, I'll be hosting this. Joining me, of course, is Wolf and Atlas of the LCK, which is what they told me to say because I'm also from the LCK. Gents, how are you?
Not too bad, man. Yeah, it's a bit of a LCK reunion. I like it.
Yeah, it's been really fun hanging out at the hotel and getting ready for this event. Really hyped. Going to be some good matches.
Yeah, well, we've got the top 2 teams from each major region, kind of like a reunion from MSI. Going into it, what are some of the big storylines, Wolf?
I mean, right now, obviously, is Gen G. Can they continue their Golden Road arc, and will they be able to get back-to-back titles? currently undefeated in the LCK as well. They haven't lost a single game. So that's one of the big stories, is how will Gen G do here with not a lot of preparation, because they went straight from the LCK to here. Not a lot of prep time. We have a new patch. So I think Gen G being tested here is a really exciting storyline that a lot of people are following.
Yeah, I'm pretty interested in domestic form and how it translates to this tournament. I think that there are a couple of schools of thought that you can have for something like EWC, and that is it going to be just more of the same from the teams in their domestic leagues, or is it going to be a big reset so that these teams can really use this as an opportunity to find something different? And with the format of the tournament, I think it's really interesting, right? Because they're on Gen G's side of the bracket, not going to be facing them in the first match, but if they are able to overcome, then maybe it's just win the whole thing from that point, right? Like, this is the thing, there's going to be only one winner. There's no losers bracket. It's sort of do or die for every single team. So you have to cross that hurdle at some point.
Well, when you bring up the bracket, you bring up a really good point. The way that it worked out for our friends at home, we have NAEU on opposite sides of the bracket, and then LPL, LCK also on the other side of the bracket. I think that's just so fun how these regional rivalries are now getting a spotlight even more here at EWC.
I think a lot of people are sad about how that worked out, in that they might lose their favorite region in the first round. Like, it could be that the LCK is completely eliminated from the first round, or it could be the LPL is completely eliminated. Really tough matchups there. But I think, based on the teams we have, it's kind of 50-50 whether that will happen or not. I think one of the big things for me about this tournament is how much time Gen G and T1 have had to play games professionally on a very similar patch to the one we're going into now. People are not expecting massive changes moving into this new patch for this tournament. And in the LCK, you just play a ton of games. We have a double round robin system. We're only, partially through the first round robin at this point.
Week 3.
But even still, they played a ton of games, right? They have a really good read on this meta. If you compare what the LCS teams have played so far game-wise, if you compare even to the LPL with their new group format, as well as the Fearless draft that they have, which means they can't iterate as much on the compositions, moving to this tournament that's not Fearless draft, I think it gives a huge edge to the LCK teams.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, right? Because I think Fearless Draft can also be used on the other hand, because it gives you a lot of extra practice on a whole bunch of different stuff. So maybe like training champion pools is something that the LPL has a little bit more experience in. But ultimately, I think you're right. I think it is just a little bit of a hamstring when you're playing on a different format to what you're expecting here. I don't personally think that that's going to bite the LPL teams that much, especially Top Esports. I think that Top are looking really good. BLG, on the other hand, not sure what to expect whatsoever, but I think it's really, really fun that it's BLG versus T1 to start us off. Both of them coming off losses to organizations that have been historically that team, like KT and LGD, like they've got the same energy in my mind. And the fact that they were both sort of just very recently taken down by those squads, I think is like a beautiful parallel to see going into that first match.
Yeah, I like that you brought up Top Esports, because they have the player that has played the most champions so far in the summer season in Tien, who is tied with Keria. They've both played 10 champions uniquely in their seasons, compared to the player who's played the least amount of champions in the summer split. That would be the general. It's Umpty, who's only played 2.
The man knows what he likes, okay? We know this from the LCK. But of course, like, I think that there's a lot of teams that have been drafting super specifically. And I think that there is a lot of the same ideas going around about how this patch is supposed to be played.
Yeah.
In the LCK, we've recently seen a few different adaptations on this sort of like tanks and hypercarry meta, but I still think that that's probably going to be the resounding idea as to what's going to be winning. So expect a lot of the old Tristana Corki in the mid lane and stuff like that.
And in terms of the Korea versus China matchups, the LPL LCK matchups, it's really interesting to see that both Faker has had a bit of a drop off in terms of his individual performances. MSI was, a bit of a rough one for him. He's bounced back since in the LCK. Knight looks a little bit less comfortable on AD mids at the moment, and I don't think that meta is really going to be changing on this patch. They haven't really gutted the champs in mid lane, Corki, Tristana, untouched on this patch, so that's going to be an interesting storyline to follow. And then on the other one, when you look at Gen G going up against Top Esports, the bottom lane I think is where Top Esports has really excelled. Like they've got an incredible AD carry in the bottom lane, most famous of all time. Pretty much a lot of people would argue. Next to Uzi, who's no longer up at the top, but you know what I mean. Jackaliv's really moving up the ranks. But this has been like the best season for Lehens and Pays in terms of how they're playing as a duo, looking way better than they did in spring season. MSI was incredible for Lehen, so it feels good for Gen.G in this matchup, considering one of the strong points for top esports is actually just kind of weaker than what Gen.G is showing so far to me. And also the same point for Tian in that Canyon also has a massive champion pool. So it feels like some of the good things you'd say about TES in an isolated world is kind of ironically, Gen.G feels like they're maybe 10% better in both of those positions, both the bottom lane and the jungle.
Yeah, it's sort of like the Gen.G Light situation, and that is a very dangerous prospect for this team that looks absolutely unbeatable. So I like, anything can happen in the tournament, right? Like, we could be eating our words, but I think it would be disingenuous to not say that if Gen.G loses a single game in this tournament, that's an upset. I'd even go so far as to say if they lose an early game, it's an upset, but like, they're just looking like heads and shoulders strong at this point in time. And of course, you know, we've got a little bit more tape than, I guess, the other teams, but I don't see them losing at all, which is going to make that first matchup really interesting, just because if Top Esports are able to do it, then are they just going to win the whole thing, right? Like, because they start off with the hardest test. You get through that exam, and then you're like kind of cruising, you know?
Let's talk about two teams from the West, the 2 seeds that we really haven't given too much love to in FlyQuest and Fnatic. Of course, at MSI, FlyQuest got knocked out before the knockout stages, so they are now moved on in, and the only team here that has made a roster change in the mid lane, Jensen out, Quad in, and now he's getting the opportunity on the big stage. Well, what do you make of these two squads in terms of what success looks like to them?
I mean, for Fnatic, they have Noah and June in the bottom lane, and that is, you know, 2 Korean players that we know pretty well. Obviously, June played in the LCK. Noah played briefly in the LCK, was mostly a challengers player from KT Rolster. And Noah, to me, he's really shown his stuff early on in this tournament, and I think we were all pretty excited for Noah potentially coming to the LCK. Had a lot of potential, right? And this is often what happens in challengers. Those challengers players then move to other regions if there's no space for them right now in the LCK. So I'm glad to see he's really showcased what he's capable of. Same with June. But it's an Ezreal meta, right? Ezreal's extremely strong. Not touched on this patch. It's been one of Noah's favorite champions, one that he played a ton in challengers. Even when Ezreal wasn't meta, he was kind of leaning on it, finding a lot of success with that. So to me, that's definitely the big pick. And then Quad was kind of a question mark to me, to be honest. Like, I didn't think he was going to do as well as he did in the LCS as people thought. So for us watching Quad, at least in my experience, and when we covered a lot of his games, he was at times pretty weak. Like, we considered him to be a weaker mid laner. Didn't expect him to find, you know, it wasn't like he was going to have a bad time in the LCS, but I didn't expect him to, you know, his reputation to go skyrocketing and the faith that people had in him, even after a long career, to pick him up. I was pretty surprised by, but not sure how he's going to do maybe past the first round, but I'm looking forward to him because he's a guy that I had kind of written off, but he's back.
Yeah, I'm actually really interested in FlyQuest because I feel like the roster change wasn't necessarily about individual strength, it was more about cohesiveness within the team. And I think you do have explosive changes when that has been remedied. And I think Quad has done that. Like, and I'll echo Wolf because we knew Quad as Sulka, who was a Cassiopeia one-trick in solo queue, and then came into Challenger and was just kind of average, and then came into the LCK and was then even more average and was subbed out pretty immediately. And seeing his sort of meteoric rise over in North America is really, really cool because we knew that he had the potential to be great, not just on Cassiopeia. Like, he was always pretty good on that champion, but like, we knew he had the potential to be great, but he just wasn't ready yet. And so to now like actually get his opportunity is, I think, really, really huge. So I'm looking forward to seeing what FlyQuest can do with the adjustment that they've made moving into EWC. I don't know whether it's necessarily going to be enough, but we'll just have to see, right? Because we don't have tape in them from a knockout stage in MSI because it was PSG instead.
Yeah, it was. I do want to just give my shout outs to Inspired, who was my MVP vote last year for the LCS, who didn't feel like he could be unlocked going into MSI, and him having another opportunity on a large scale. I expect him to have a pretty good tournament, as well as the ageless wonder in the top lane, Whippo, who's just constantly evolving his game. So we'll see how FlyQuest end up doing. And then for the Fnatic side, Humanoid had those standout performances where, you know, we were shouting his name, and right now his form in the LEC kind of shaky, so I'm hoping that he's able to turn it back around.
What's so interesting to me about Humanoid is he's a player who I think was really criticized early on in his career, but he's outlasted other mids he kind of grew up around, like Larson, for example. And back several years ago, he was like the only mid playing Tristana mid often and consistently, and people were kind of like, why is he playing that? It's not that strong. He's kind of going in a bit too deep. He's making some mistakes. He's looking for those resets and failing. He hasn't played a single game of Tristana this season, actually, despite it being incredibly meta. So I don't know where he's going to land, but he's one of the players I've always enjoyed watching over the last few years because I think his growth has been immense. And maybe his current form isn't his best so far this year. But again, in an international tournament like this, you have such a huge opportunity to make a name for yourself in a new country, in a new place, with so many eyes watching you. So I hope he steps up.
I also want to quickly shout out Razok as well, because I think that he is one of the junglers that's actually playing Ivern on this patch.
Yeah.
And Ivern makes sense, right? When you're playing double hypercarry all the time, just put another support out there. And I know a lot of people are like, you just surround them with tanks and then everything's fine. But I think that like Ivern has a really specific place. He's played it a lot so far in the LEC as well. So I think like Fnatic's idea of what good looks like will be a little bit different. And when you have that at a tournament like this, like a clash of styles, that's really fun because you don't get that with LPL versus LCK. The drafts are the same. And so we'll just have to, like, I'm really looking forward to seeing their matchups and whether that influences the other teams at the tournament as well.
All right, well, we've hit all the teams. Pred's time, so where are we going with predictions here? I think you guys at home will be so shocked what our LCK casters pick.
Well, you know, coming into this tournament, before I had fully looked into all of BLG's games, I was really worried for T1, especially, you know, considering they did come off of that loss against KT Rolster. But at the same time, I think T1, a lot of their problems are draft related, and it's going to be until the finals if they make it there, best of threes. So you're working with a smaller set of drafts. It's a little bit tougher to expose a draft in a longer series until we get to that finals, if they do. And I think, you know, I spoke with Guma UC today, and I asked him about the KT series, and he mentioned, you know, that we played a little bit too aggressively. We also didn't have the good read on the draft, which is something we've all been talking about in that KT series. The draft was really rough.
Yep.
I think these types of things, especially you got a coach like T1's really robust coaching staff, I think that kind of thing can be fixed fairly easily, even though it's a new patch. I think a lot of people are stressed about that. I think if T1 just draft their own play style, they should be able to overcome. So for the first series, I'm definitely now leaning to T1, maybe like 55-45.
Yeah, I'm actually, as far as predictions for the first round is concerned, I kind of think we're going to have a team from every region. That's what I'm feeling, because I actually feel like BLG versus T1 is going to be hard for T1 to bounce back from. I think that like at the beginning of a season is where you want to attack T1. I think they often ramp up, and with the short time span of this tournament, they don't have that opportunity.
Right.
And I think that BLG has a really good shot of being able to upset there. Of course, I'm not going to be surprised if T1 wins, but I think that there is a big likelihood that we get BLG, G2, TL, and then Gen G through to the next round. And I think that that is absolutely awesome that we then get a representation from every single region making it to the semis.
I agree with most of that, except the first thing that you said way back, or I agree mostly with the first thing you said way back. It's Gen G versus Top Esports, and I think the winner of that has the best chance of moving forward.
It's 2018 Worlds, you know, it's KT versus IG, and we know that like whoever's going to win that one is going to take it home. And I think if we were like to peel it all back, that's probably how it is. And I don't think that Top stands even half a chance.
I think I'm a little bit biased in terms of, you know, how much I've, you know, had the magnifying glass on Gen G versus Top Esports, obviously, because it's my region. I'm analyzing the games, casting the games day to day. But I just feel like right now Gen G's, you know, ability to maximize early game leads, get plates, whether they're swapping lanes after the early laning phase advantage they got, and then getting plates top side for Pays. This type of play, how good Pays is at hyper carry, Canyon's champion pool. It just seems to me that even though Tian has some of those similar strengths, Jaculev's really, really on form right now. I'm going to have to lean towards Gen G here. And it's tough to say, you know, definitively that I would say Gen G are the massive favorites just because it's a best of three. If it was a best of five, I think I'd feel even more comfortable with Gen G, even though Top Esports played them to 5 at MSI.
Right.
I think this Gen G is better, believe it or not, than the Gen G we saw at MSI.
Oh, 100%. And I think that's where I'm sort of coming from, is the fact that like you unlock Canyon to play carries, they've just become like so much stronger. And we know like Canyon just wins worlds when he's allowed to play the picks that he likes. That happened in 2020. It almost happened again in 2021 on a slightly different meta. So I think you pair Canyon and Chovy together in a meta that suits exactly what they want to do. Like Chovy was picking Corki when it wasn't even that good. He's like happy to just only play that champion forever, even if there are other champions that are good. But Corki's really good at this point in time, and you've only made him better at the time Chovy is the most powerful. So I think so much, like it's the stars aligning in the patch notes and they're spelling out Gen G in really big letters, and that's the problem.
Well, these have been some superstar names that we've talked about. We've got some superstar games happening here at EWC. We'll find out how it all shakes out. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me on this roundtable. And yeah, we'll see how things happen.
Thanks, man.
Thanks.
Hi everyone, Ginny here, and we're joined with Humanoid and Razork from Fnatic. Thank you so much for coming here. How's your flight? How's it going?
My flight has been amazing. Yeah, I mean, it's just a normal flight. I don't know what to say. I mean, I'm enjoying it here, and that's it. How about you?
I was chilling, watching Game of Thrones, the ending.
Yeah, poor guy now realized that the last season is not that great.
Oh, spoilers.
I still
No spoilers, I guess.
need
No, it doesn't
to
matter.
do one more episode, and I'm done with it.
Don't do it.
You should probably finish what you started. I would say you should do it.
I will finish. I will
Yeah,
finish,
see?
of course.
There you go. All right, let's jump straight into the questions here, because I want to talk a little bit about the LEC run that the team has had so far. It was really, really good, and then G2 happened. So, do you think that could impact you on an international stage as well?
Not at all. I think the fact that we played really bad in the last 3 games is just gonna make us stronger coming into this tournament. And I mean, we pretty much did it just so we bring the fan expectations a bit lower, because everyone was like telling us that we are the favorites to win the tournament. So now that it's not the case, we can actually focus on like playing without so much pressure. Yeah.
Yeah, my answer is, I think I found 2 or 3 patterns that happened in the games that we lost, and it's my mid lane is running it down and getting solo kill, and we are mis-executing dives on top and bot. So these things were happening, right? You agree?
I don't remember.
Okay, it happened, so we just need to stop running it down on mid and maybe stop diving, and then maybe we can win, you know?
I mean, you live and you learn, right? So.
I don't remember that happening.
No. Short-term memory loss. Do you remember the game against Team Liquid?
I do.
Not really.
I do remember it, yeah.
You want to talk about it? Because Team Liquid is also the first team that you'll be playing, and there is a lot of pressure because there's no lower bracket.
I mean, we can talk about it if you want.
Yeah, I would love to. Do you want to talk about it? Do you want to? How does it make you feel?
I mean, it was a long time ago, no? Now it's already in the past for me. Good point now, we play at 9 p.m. We don't play in the morning. So now we have no excuse if we lose against them.
That's way worse.
What do you mean?
Gamer hours.
It's
I
better.
can't play at 9 p.m.
Okay, then
prefer
I don't know,
morning.
my mid laner can't play at 12 a.m., he can't play at 9 p.m., he can't play
Bro, I can
at
play
any time.
easily at 12 a.m.
I thought this was the round table, not the grill your mid laner table. But you
Okay.
know, we can do that. It's okay. But 9 p.m. Why'd you not like 9 p.m.?
I mean, I'm already asleep almost at 9 p.m. You know?
Wow.
I have
Early
a
bedtime.
have a healthy schedule. You know, waking up at 6 a.m. for a run, of course.
Have you gone for a run here in the weather?
Yeah.
How are you finding it? How hot was it when you went for a run here?
Okay, I didn't go for a run. I have to admit, I'm kind of lying here. But yeah, I mean, I've been outside for like 5 minutes. If I stay there for 5 more, I think I'm gonna die. But fortunately, inside it's not as hot, so I'm just gonna stay inside.
Yeah, just classic gamer, just staying inside.
Yeah.
And have a healthy sleeping schedule.
Yeah.
And go for a run at 6 a.m. Yeah.
I don't think he's going to run, and I don't think he has a healthy sleep schedule, but it's fine.
You gotta do what you gotta do for these interviews, right? If that's what he wants to say,
Let it
that's
be.
fine. When you're looking at the bracket particularly, and we're approaching it from best of 3 series, we're coming from the LEC, regular season just finished, it's only best of 1s. Do you think that's more of an advantage for you guys because you know that you have to come in and show up on the first game? Or do you think it could potentially bring some fatigue with, 9 p.m. being the game time?
I mean, for me, it's completely fine, honestly. I prefer playing best of 3s than best of 1s. I personally said it many times, even in my social media. I don't like the LEC format right now. and I think the best of ones are not the best for the competition. So I like that we are gonna play best of 3. And yeah, I don't mind too much about playing at 9 p.m. It's just my mid laner likes to complain a lot.
What do you have to say to defend yourself?
I mean, I also prefer best of 3s. I prefer to play earlier, but that's it. I'm not complaining, guys. I think Team Liquid is absolute trash, and we are just gonna stomp them.
Whoa. Okay.
Or me, I'm gonna stomp them. I don't know about this guy.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I just hope you don't get solo killed by TLAPA.
TLAPA is, yeah.
Captain
I don't know if he's the captain of their team, but me as the captain of our team, I'm just gonna make sure that the mid lane matchup is under control at all times. Yeah, that's it.
I remember some Aurelion some performance.
Put it all on the line, definition of divine. Yeah, I feel like a champion. Ain't nothing that can't be done. They told me I wouldn't be nothing. Came on now, I'm second to none. I need me a trophy, I need me a ring. I'm not with the bull, but keep it a beam. You know what it is, you know what I mean? Shit, all I do is win, 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 win. Haters wanna hate, they make top 10. Double, triple team, what they need to defend. I juke left and I'm gone with the win. I'm gone with it. I feel like a champion. A champion. Ain't nothing that can't be done. Oh yeah.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Esports World Cup. We are counting down towards game number 3. There was a little bit of a delay. We're not going to hoodwink you on that one. It's not a planned gigantic break, but we got things sorted. We're ready for draft. All right, let's do it. Top Esports back onto the blue side once again. And gentlemen, is this just going to be like a ping pong of we're just going to destroy on blue side until eventually Top Esports wins game 5?
Well, that's a big question. Is T1, I feel like obviously we know blue side's an advantage, but even so, I feel like their draft was pretty rough in that game 1. So with the momentum for game 2, maybe can find a better advantage here and potentially look to kind of break Top Esports blue side pick.
I think it's really going to be about the adaptation here.
Ooh,
I think
there we go.
T1 have identified that Tristana is a problem. They're happy to remove both of these AD carries and play a different game. Faker's Ahri, Faker's Azir, these picks that he's so known for. Talia that's been targeted against in both games, maybe even in this third game as well. We'll see what Top Esports decide to do. These are picks T1 can rely on. They don't have to play double AD carry. They don't have to stick with the meta that's been the last 3 weeks of LCK domestic play. The Gnar ban leaves that pick open. The Talia I'm mentioning. If we'll see the Rumble ban coming through here for T1. I expect it, and there it is.
Wonder what this does to the Corki priority. Is obviously we've seen him struggle against a Tristana, but no Tristana means you can put that priority in, and I feel like
I have an idea, and we've seen this one perhaps before, and it's called Azir versus Corki.
Oh, don't, please don't.
Now, Ashe, a very strong, flexible pick here for T1. They've played it support so many times. And grab the Azir here. And with the Vi gone, I think the stocks of the Ahri pick go way down. The Talia goes significantly down. It's still a matchup he's absolutely playable. But it's Faker's Azir, a pick he has leaned into throughout his entire career. And he is one of the most famous Azir players. Let's just say he's the most famous Azir player of all time. And when you look at what this potentially sets up is a lot of AD jungle picks for Owner, and this gets really complex right now for Top Esports because picks like the Iverns, those stocks go way down when you have Emperor's Divide for Engage. You have potential Lee Sin pick that can invade the jungle and push Tion back. Even the Zyra, a fairly risky pick here, but they'll opt in anyways.
Yeah, we've seen the Zyra struggle into the Ashe in particular. That pick potential really effective that you can use at a distance. They do end up locking the Renekton in as well, so definitely a top side of the map where it's about setting the pace of the game, a fast clear jungler, 2 laners who you're looking to get prio out of, but T1 don't seem too concerned. And the thing to know is at Top Esports, we expect the Corki mid, so they haven't really locked in anything for the bot lane, and T1 looking to secure what might be just a really powerful 2v2, but instead they will go for the Nidalee, so even with the AP mid laner, still happy to secure that pick.
Not a huge fan of the Nidalee here in this particular position, just simply because I think Owner has a fantastic Lee Sin, for example. Xin Zhao he could have played here to really put the pressure on Tian in a more direct way instead of just trying to outspeed and catch up with the Zyra. The Nidalee can follow up on arrows incredibly well, so that's a good sign for what they could potentially get done in the bottom lane. But I feel like the Zyra is going to have such a larger impact. Ziggs is kind of a no-brainer here, one of the best wave clear bottom champions that could play into this Ashe lane. We don't know if it's going to be support or AD carry, but either way, the Ziggs is probably your best bet. Strong ban here for T1.
Yeah, I wonder if they start to look towards Leona. We've seen Mako play a lot during the tournament, maybe even the Nautilus. If you're thinking of playing that Ashe support, the long-range pick potential the Nautilus provides, really powerful. And Top Esports just trying to ban away the pairings that can go well with the Ashe, understanding it is such a powerful flex. And the goal of T1 is to make that 2v2 really uncomfortable. They'll lock top lane on 4 for Zeus, and then keep the options alive till 5 picks. So Top Esports clearly going for a powerful top side for pressure, and T1 are investing heavily in that bot lane, and really that's what I'm looking for Owner to sort of lean towards and get that pressure.
Well, right now, we've got one more ban to come through from Top Esports' side. We'll see what it is going to be as the Braum is actually taken away. So no doors in this game. We've seen Braum for the last couple, but not this time. So Mako going to have to jump onto something else this time, and maybe, and in fact, we'll actually see another unique champion. Mako's only played Braum and Leona so far. As the Malphite is just... Okay, never mind. Oh,
that was such a bait!
So trolled!
The picks that stood out to me here were definitely Cassante and even the potential Mordekaiser, but you've got a lot of magic damage in this draft. I think you want to shy away from that and go
It wasn't even a good Malphite angle, but I still got so excited.
And it's another magic profile there that you didn't necessarily want. This allows Curry to have counter pick, and he can play Varus into any lane that they pick here and feel comfortable. They can also play something completely different. The Draven was still left available. There's so many dual lanes with this Ashe that they can play into. The Sivir we've seen do incredibly well, great into lane swaps. So it's really the pick of the litter here for T1. We'll see what that AD carry pick is going to be for JackeyLove. The Ezreal is so strong in this meta, but feels so risky into a lane matchup like this.
I feel like they probably want a little bit more consistent damage, or just JackeyLove's Draven. As it was hovered by T1. I don't think T1 are going to be surprised by this, but I think they should still be wary of it because this guy is pretty good at this champion, and there it is, locked away for JackeyLove, and this is looking like a pretty meta composition on the side of Top Esports.
To me, this makes it way too dangerous to put the Ashe into support role and have those double 80 carries, double squishies bot. We've seen Tian on the Zyra use that fast clear speed to heavily impact bot, so if you're playing, you know, something like something that is squishy, something that is vulnerable into Draven Nautilus, you're going to have a bad time. So they instead go for the Renata. Pretty good matchup in the Nautilus. Obviously, Top Esports already banned away the Braum, which could have been another defensive pick, but the main goal here is to try and mitigate that aggressive pressure Top Esports have brought out in the bot lane.
My biggest concern here for Top Esports is that we're moving into a world where Faker has agency. You know, he had agency on the Ahri last game. We saw his Talia target ban. Azir, another pick where you actually get to control the flow of the game. It's not just sit back and do damage. When Faker has agency, he makes those picks happen. Draven, very immobile here. Isn't a great front line. Yes, you have the Renekton. Yes, you have the Nautilus, but if he gets shut down early, loses his stacks, this could be a disaster for Top Esports. They've got great follow-up for the arrow as well. The spear damage is terrifying. I'm going to have to lean T1 on this one, even on red side.
Do you feel like this game is going to be so volatile when on one side you have Draven, who inherently is a champion who snowballs super hard or falls behind, on the other side, Nidalee, who kind of is in the same ballpark with that. So it feels like with the games being so explosive in 1 and 2, so snowbally, I don't think that's going to change in this game 3.
The thing for me is that in game 1, it was Tristana. In game 2, it was Rumble. And in game 3, they're both finally banned. And so maybe it's going to be some honest League of Legends that we're going to get for ourselves and see who's going to reach match point here at EWC presenting League of Legends. See who gets one step closer to that trophy and getting to choose exactly who they want to augment the bottom of it as they put their key into the middle. It's going to be very exciting to see, but no team can lift it until they've destroyed a Nexus 2 times. Whether it's going to be 2 times in a row, we'll just have to find out. Of course, T1 an opportunity to do just that. Top Esports a chance to answer back with Blue side, which has seemed like a bit of an advantage.
Yeah, I think based on the games we've had previously, if you're coming out of the draft phase and you're not at a big disadvantage, when the other team has picked blue side, you're in a good spot. I think T1 have given themselves the tools to find a win in this game. It really just comes down to the execution. And ultimately, I feel like the junglers, I think it's been a patch, it's been a meta where junglers have been so impactful. The fact that you can clear so quickly and you have that bonus time to impact the map while also having good economy means you really are in a prime spot to take over the game.
And for me, I think it's more on Tian than it is going to be on Owner in this game. I think Tian has to really set the Draven up for success. His dives bottom side, his ganks there trying to stop this pushing Ashe Renata lane. That's where you're going to have to find your angle of attack. I think in the initial part of the draft, wanted to play around the Renekton top side, but I think we'll have to path bottom. We'll have to deal with the Nidalee Spears and the lane that is set up here by T1. If the Draven gets shut down, can't get ahead early, this draft falls apart at the seams so quickly for Top Esports. So big responsibility for Tian in this one.
I like the sideways cam that we got there and the big grin on Owner's face as we still wait a few moments before we dive onto the Rift for game number 3, making sure everything is in order before we get there. I saw referee over at Mako's computer there, but not entirely sure what is holding up our entrance onto Summoner's Rift. Hopefully it's going to be quick smart, because I know you guys have been waiting a little bit of extra time. But Faker here, I think probably ready to just have some good times on his Azir. And I feel like this is going to be further comfort for the man in the mid lane for T1. And if it can be shut down by Top Esports, I think that's a big statement to be made.
Yeah, and I think with it being a best of 5 when the rest of the tournament has been best of 3s, the strategy coming into draft is going to be different. So, you know, game 1, they left the Tristana open, backfired massively, but you have more of an ability to leave picks open and kind of test the waters with them. Now I feel like that's going to be a pick that's established, is really being banned throughout. The Rumble is another one that's clearly been seen to be an issue, as you mentioned before. And here is really, we're going to test the waters and see which has the highest value, which picks are going to need to be dealt with when it comes to draft. Maybe the Zyra could be one of them if it's a really good game from Tian.
I think that there were 2 real risky options here for the side of Top Esports. I actually prefer the Draven option, going head-to-head straight up with this Ashland, as we've seen so many times in the LPL, in the LCK. It's one of Jacula's more famous picks, right? Going head-to-head there and trying to play this explosive style with the dive composition they can set up with the Zyra with the Nautilus, definitely a better option than trying to opt into the Ezreal, because that was another choice they could have made. Try to ride out the storm, go for scaling, try to play more defensively around that bottom lane, and then kind of outrange the Ashe later on. Can play well around the arrow, and I think this was really a big sticking point. A lot of confidence and trust in Jacula in this draft for Top Esports, a lot of trust in Tian as well to help set him up and get it done. This, for me, I'm kind of going to echo what Atlas said, the most interesting set of drafts we've had so far in this finals.
Yeah, finally getting the Rumble and Tristana both banned at the same time, and that has got to feel good. Right now, we're just testing the mechanics of the players with their ability to press tab while their screen is in sepia mode. Outside of that, not quite into the game just yet, but I'm sure we will have some news for you as soon as possible as to what is exactly going on.
Indeed. I want to keep you guys updated and informed. I want to make sure all the players have the best possible setup, no issues going into the game that will decide who goes to match point here in this best of 5. Our first and only one here to find out who's going to be the first winners of the Esports World Cup presenting League of Legends, a big best of 5.
And I have a little bit of information for you. It is once again a little bit of a sound issue. Making sure that everyone can hear each other clearly is our priority. So we are just getting that sorted out as quickly as possible. We'll have more information for you as soon as it does become available. Seems like, I mean, we're itching to get into this game. The draft, the most interesting that we've had so far. Just kind of want to get onto the Rift, you know?
Yeah, just be given a lot of time to ruminate over it, think about, you know, all aspects, all facets.
It's a lot of draft marinating, not a lot of draft, you know, cooking, you know?
Yeah.
I think that for me, I've been really, we've seen it so much in the LCK, but this tournament's kind of been a little bit away from. We saw some funny picks like the Casted, for example, but I think when you're in a meta where the mid laners don't have agency and they're just AD carries, the games become super one-sided because the mid laner doesn't have the agency to make a super play, right? Like you could see from Talia, like you could see from Azir.
And now that Faker is on this pick, it's not necessarily going to be a game where Top Esports gets ahead. They push that vision forward, and there's nothing Faker could do. There's nothing T1 could do, because we've seen so many one-sided games in this tournament where the team that has the advantage just pushes control wards in a line across past where that outer mid turret is, and then the enemy team just has to kind of sit back and guess with no vision. I think the Azir is kind of an interesting X factor in this draft in terms of what it can do even if you're behind. And so Faker gets to test his mettle once again.
I like as well just the lane priority has been such a factor. You know, we saw AP junglers obviously can clear really fast, but we saw the jungle experience buffed, which means if you have that lane priority, if you can invade, if you can challenge, you get more of an advantage over that. We also saw like the grubs get buffed, so they're more of a valuable objective. So if you're setting the pace of the game, chaining these together, then you can really be in a position to take over. And as you've said, it's just been such a fast-paced meta. If one team gets a significant edge, they can really drive it forwards with no hesitation.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that we don't get a complete repeat of that, because I want to see some close League of Legends. I want to see some more white knuckles towards the later stages. But thankfully, we have a gentleman alongside ready to hype up the crowd once again. Let's throw it over to Kangas.
Thank you very much, Atlas, and hello and welcome back, everybody, here at the Kadia Arena. We're trying our best to get into the game, but we have one more small pause. So while we're waiting for that to be sorted out on stage, I figured we could interact with a little bit of the crowd because I've seen some amazing signs, and I want to highlight this one in particular. So obviously, Top Esports fan, when did you, first off, what's your name?
I'm Shreya.
When did you make this sign? Did you know that T1 was going to be in the finals, or did you just predict that?
The first day.
The first day he made this sign. No faith in Team Liquid?
No. I made it the first day.
All right, thank you for your time. No faith in Team Liquid, apparently. But we got some other signs over here. We're going to take a look at this one. Can I get some help? That's a good one. That's a good one right there. Are there any other signs? Who else has a sign out here? What about over there? Let's get that one. A lot of Top Esports fans. We're going to try it again one more time here because we attempted it earlier, and I'm going to say, I think the T1 fans were the ones that they were booing you. They were making too much noise. So T1 fans, I'm going to need you to play along this time. Here they go again. Am I right? Okay, we're going to start over here. We're going to give a TES, and then you're going to answer with a T1 fighting, and then we're gonna go TES, T1 fighting. Are we ready to try it again? We're gonna get it this time. 3, 2, 1, TES! All right, TES fans, I hear you. We need to give them a chance to rebuttal. So we say 1 TES. We hear their response, and then we go again. We're gonna get it this time. I believe. 3, 2, 1, TES. TES. There we go. That's what I'm talking about, everybody. Give yourselves a round of applause. All right, and I'm hearing some very good news, everybody, because we are ready to get into Game 3. Give it up for your finalists, TES and T1.
Thank you so much, Kangas. And I have a feeling that the players just wanted to hear the chants one more time. And so that's why we made sure that we had a brief pause to get him up there once again. Thank you so much for that one. And now it is time. We are on to the Rift for game number 3 to see who pulls ahead and who reaches that 2-1 mark.
The build-up, the hype for this game been pretty big. Fortunately, some delays, but I feel like we have interesting drafts on our hand. Both teams 1-1, and we are hopefully getting at that close series we're looking for.
Absolutely. It's been a long time coming, and now we get to see it realized here on the Rift. Kariaguma topside here.
Oh, they've done it 2 games in a row. The little battle, 369 testing himself, And now they're going to get a little bit impatient, not wait for him to come on over. The frost shot, though, is going to stop 369 from being able to walk too far. The handshake, he's going to connect as the slice flash has to come in. Big value here for T1 topside.
And you can see it's one of these situations where you really don't want to level your E first on Renekton, so you're holding it like, please don't make me start E. But in the end, you have to burn both, you know, flash down and the E used, and you're low on health as well, so T1 can take firm control as topside and establish some vision. Really heads up play, and I feel like, you know, you talked about it. They were always battling level 1. You can really punish players' tendencies when you start to read them like that.
And was it was G2 versus T1 where they punished Faker for that one ward that he put down over and over again. They come in, they managed to collapse on that play. T1 doing a very similar thing on that top side, reading the tendencies of these players.
Yeah.
I love to see that.
You could even remember back to game 1 where we saw the aggressive play from 369 on the Renekton the same way. T1 expecting he's going to go up there and try to trade with the Cassante, suss out whether there's a lane swap or not, and it's a great punish. So flash down, E start. This gives a huge edge to Zeus. Keria and Guma are going to return to lane here. We won't actually have a commitment to any lane swaps here at level 1. And now the jungle clear begins.
Well, Hook gonna connect here already. They're doing battle. Jackie Love trying to land these axes. Gumayushi still at full health, able to throw down the arrows. As I say that, he cops the axe to the head. It's gonna be all right. 369 utilizing that level 1 E.
And maybe he's just gonna embrace it now, you know, get the touches in. But yeah, I mean, ultimately Renekton, not the strongest level 1 champion regardless, so Zeus have a bit of a better time, but still, don't expect too much to come from that. But really, the bot lane's what is exciting to me, because a lot of power on both the AD carries, even from level 1. And Mako, there's opportunities to make things happen on Nautilus, but it's so delicate against a Renata.
Certainly is. And Renata, in a lot of matchups, the interaction with the bailout is a high damage champion like the Draven we see on the other side, like a Kalista, and you do so much damage, the bailout gives you just a few more autos and you get the reset. Can work very well with Nidalee dives as well, though, because it gives Nidalee that extra oomph. Is Mila over here?
Yeah, more hooks coming down. Another great handshake to answer. Really getting the value out of the Renata here is even the passive doing some work, as Mako has to flash. The frost shot, I mean, in these extended trades, the Ashe value is so high if you can win. There's now Cream possibly in trouble, unless Owner is in trouble, because Tien's moving up. There's the flash. And then Nidalee has to slink away, as 369 not going to be in turret range. Zeus almost in kill range, but he is going to be all right as he does get himself out of there. No flash for the Renekton meant that he was a little bit safer.
Yeah, Owner really wants to apply the pressure down on his bot side. They know exactly where Tien has been because of that ward from earlier.
Yeah, Owner hops on over the wall, as now he might be hopping back again because Jackie Love and Mako are going to move on over. Keria in the vicinity as well, able to play bouncer, as there's a lot of testing the waters, not a lot of actual results here just yet. Even though that flash was burnt earlier on, it's a very early teleport here from Zeus, so 369 was still with a lot of control of the top side.
Yeah, bottom side here. Owner fishing for a little bit of harass, trying to take some camps away, relatively unsuccessful here. Did have to flash, as you mentioned, but he does not want to give the Zyra any space.
Yeah, Spear going to connect there, and the Grasping Roots not doing a whole lot. Flash has to be used. And thankfully, the Spear is going to miss, as Tien not going to get followed over that wall. As Faker and Cream, we haven't really checked in on this mid lane, but so far it's looking pretty even.
Owner's doing such a fantastic job on this Nidalee, you know, really trying to play as aggressive as possible. You'll see his blue side quadrant still hasn't been touched, so he can go back to that when he needs to, but just trying as much as possible to challenge Tien's camps. And the added benefit of this is we've seen when the Zyra's unchallenged, he will just go bot lane with that free time. You're not getting any free time now. You're not even getting the normal time you have to clear camps, and now Owner is the one looking to apply some pressure bot.
And you're making this an unfair fight in the bottom lane. Mako here can deter a lot of dives because he is Nautilus, but, I mean, bailout's pretty strong.
There are 3 towards this bottom side, but Mako is going to catch the wall. Gumayushi still has to flash to get himself out of the way, and Mako will survive for the moment. Owner slinking away, and T1 once again thwarted in this aggression.
And T1 are just making this an unfair fight here. They're trying to fight fire with this Draven pick in the draft, but these Ashe slows, the spears connecting, the harassment constantly here from Owner. This makes it so tough to play out here. A small CS deficit now for Jackie Love, but just constant pressure there on the bottom side. Yes, the Renekton is winning top side without any assistance, but the Cassante should be able to hold down his ground. We hadn't checked in on this mid lane, as you mentioned, Atlas, all too much, but you can see now Cream starting to pick up some big advantages here. So he hits level 6. Did already teleport though, and now is out of mana, so Faker holding down the fort can TP back to lane.
Now we're gonna get a situation where Oda can just clear through his camps now, and after this full rotation, we'll likely look towards bot again. Tier 2 boots picked up by Guma here. Obviously doesn't have the flash, but that movement speed advantage when you're playing the Ashe is so suffocating. We've seen whenever Mako tries to aggress, the double autos between the Renata and the Ashe, so hard to deal with in those extended trades. And with the bailout, you know, you really have to be ahead in a trade, ahead and all in, if you're going to be able to win the 2v2. Otherwise, you're not getting out again against the Frost arrows.
Yeah, and you don't have the same execute potential. You already mentioned this, Wolf, in the fact that, you know, Kalista has an execute, Draven has an execute. It's why you see them paired up alongside the Renata, just because you can guarantee bailouts a little bit easier. But Gumayusi, he does have the battle summoner advantage. The barrier gets to be taken, cleanse into Ashe is almost a necessity. And so T1 should be able to get these winning trades towards that bottom side. They're also going to be able to trade the Dragon for some grubs. 3 grubs going over to top esports is certainly a good thing, though, especially with this Renekton winning side lanes. And he might be winning even more as Zeus. A very quick flash going to have to be invested here.
Down here on the bottom side, continue to put this pressure on. Should be able to secure a plate here on the next wave. Won't be this one here for the side of T1. We'll see if they decide to back with this cannon wave here. I do not think so. Gonna try to get that extra advantage. They got the Dragon bottom side here. We have Infernal and Cloud, so not necessarily sure what we're gonna see in terms of Soul here, but a good start for T1 considering this is not a split pushing competition for top esports. Zeus in a little bit of danger.
That's gonna be a punish as the all-out does come on through, but Ona is in position, does manage to land that spear, sneaks it past Tien and connects onto 369, but that means that they are going to back away. And this wave state is still in a little bit of a rough spot. 369 looking to actually push that one out, so not going to be frozen on Zeus just yet.
Yeah, ended up in a really unfortunate position there, Zeus, because obviously he got away from the gank, but the wave state was still bad, so Tian hung about, but I think played that as well as he could to disengage from the situation. See some heavy trading in the mid lane, but not too sure much is going to come from it.
That's what we've been seeing with this Azir Corki matchup these days. There's the Flash Emperor's Divide, though the spear's going to connect, and first blood goes to Owner in a blink of an eye.
Not necessarily the CC setup for a spear that you normally think of, but when it's timed this well from Owner, you certainly can't line those up.
Owner looking for even more here as Tien thought that he could come on over and collect his Raptor camp. Not going to happen as Owner is really starting to put the screws in, and this is good Nidalee play when you can put this level of pressure on.
And you see like just how the map is playing out, the aggression from T1. Mid lane gets that advantage, which is fantastic, so Owner can push in the jungle. Bot lane has been pushing constantly. Top lane, you're happy to sacrifice that one to get favor elsewhere. They'll steal away the red, Owner can jump away. And again, they're just trying to set Desire behind as much as possible. And here, Faker with a fantastic read on Cream, just the instantaneous ult, and you see Cream try to Valkyrie. He had the flash in that situation, but just got caught off guard.
Yeah, a bit caught off guard. I think a bit of a panic there. Unable to react in time. The spear does connect. Bottom side, do see that we have a rotation over of Tian. Owner has kind of gotten a little bit disinterested. There's nothing really more for him to take down. The Dragon not up. So that plate on the bottom side still up. Guma and Carry weren't able to take that one. A small CS advantage down here, but Jackie Love and Mako really holding their own as those Draven Adoration stacks start to come through. There is a really big spike in team fights coming up here if Faker doesn't have his ultimate, or if he's not in position where you can Draven ult globally into one of these fights. Topside second grubs here, maybe where that does happen. We may see Jackie Love rotate over. An early cash in here for top esports is exactly what they would love to see. T1 need to respect this because Zyra ultimate in these early skirmishes, Jackie Love's early damage output with the BF sword he's now picked up. These are big tools that could snowball this game back into TES's favor if T1 make a mistake.
I also feel like it's super dangerous because ever since they added the execute on Draven's ult that scales with stacks, before that, if Draven was sitting on stacks, there was no benefit to it. You just wanted to catch in. But now you become more and more dangerous as you're stacking those up. So it's not enough that Draven doesn't cash in. You need to kill him and reset the stacks, or suddenly you get a team fight and his ult might just one-shot someone.
Oh, Gumayusi, he's going to go for the arrow here. Connects it onto Cream as Faker. Not actually going to go for any follow-up because there was kind of no one in the area. It was a cute-looking arrow, though.
It was a flex. It's to show he can do what Jackie Love does. The follow-up wasn't there, but he can still land them.
Yep, Carrier going to throw out the heal just to avoid the hook, as we could see. Some scuffling, some jockeying for position here in the mid lane, but ultimately not too much to come from it. Owner now searching for a spear. That minion certainly taking a fair bit of damage. The logistics protocol coming on through And it is going to be T1 just getting control of the wave. Same thing for Top Esports. It's Gumayusi versus Jackie once again here towards the bottom side. Gumayusi with his turret, and Jackie not going to go for anything overly aggressive, as now the Grubs are going to get started. Ono wants to be able to grab at least the first one, does do that. Could be 5-1. Should be pretty powerful here for Top Esports, especially with that top side control. Speaking of which, 369 and Zeus fighting at the top of your screen right there. Still, Top Esports retain control. They will be able to take these Grubs.
Yeah, and I feel like just the fact that even if they get one grub for T1, like their focus is be on the bot side, they're looking to secure these dragons, so even taking one grub is still decent for them, as much as they're not able to contest the full amount. And now you can see once again pushing aggressively, taking these camps, dragging up in 30, but this is TS's attempt to make a crossplay.
TS does have his flashback up and available here, so it is going to be very difficult to commit here, even with the ultimate from Tian. Can you get the root?
Yeah, Zeus just going to be killing some plants, getting a little bit of extra money as Tien will usher him away from this outer turret. Some more plate gold to go on over as 369 with that demolish. A few of these plates could be leaving here as cannon minions abound. As bottom side of the map, you can see it's another cannon wave being pushed in by T1. They'll grab that plate you've been talking about, Wolf, as well as another one. But Top Esports are looking at a full turret, and that should be taken here.
Full turret is going to be first brick here to go over to Top Esports to this Renekton that's already so massively ahead in farm. You can see this is going to push him over 1,000 gold, the advantage. But bottom side, the Dragon going over may be more valuable here with those plates. We'll see what that soul is going to be as soon as that smite goes down. It's Chemtech. Ox on the finals.
Ox,
and here we are. So T1 definitely feeling worse about the trade now, but that's sometimes the luck of the draw.
Yeah, I mean, I will say at least they have a decent amount of healing and shield in the composition between the Nidalee and the Renata, but still definitely not the soul you were hoping for when you've invested so heavily in the bot lane. And really, you're looking at the Ashe, and who has been given a bunch of that plate gold and has a decent CS lead to provide a lot of the value. The Nidalee as well, Ono with a significant lead in the jungle matchup, but game still feels on a nice edge, and I feel like Jackie Love's stacks building up. The cash in, whether it comes through or not, is really going to dictate a lot in this game.
Feeling like a crocodile's edge to me, as 369 has so much extra money, 1,200 above the second highest. As Owner, of course, has had a good game himself, but so much reward going over as that first brick does come in, as Mako looking to clear out some vision. A lot of T1 wards in this bottom side jungle. 4 minutes until the Dragon, though, so not a whole lot of reason to be in this bottom side river right now. As you can see, Faker just clearing out minion waves in the bottom lane for now.
The Renata ultimate is going to be so valuable into this Renekton. Handshake as well can be great to peel for Guma, for Faker, anyone who could potentially be caught by this Renekton. The Renekton advantage is huge. It's a lot of topside control. It's very frustrating to deal with, but Thornmail should be enough for Zeus to keep this Crocodile at bay. So that was a close call there. And then, you know, there is a world where T1 still won that first fight. I think right now the game state looks massively favored to Top Esports, maybe from the untrained eye because of this Renekton advantage, but it's still really on a nice edge. This first fight win is going to be what starts it all off.
And I think both teams have been kind of pushing their advantage, finding areas to get a little gold lead, but we haven't had the big explosive fight yet, and it feels like they're both very tentative approaching this. They know how snowball the games have been, they know how volatile the compositions are, so they're prodding and poking, trying to find opportunities. Top Esports going to move over the Herald here and start it up, and maybe T1 see this as their chance to start a fight.
Faker has TP as he pushes this side lane too, so you can get the turret and still join the fight. There's the timing window.
Zeus moving on in here. You can see Arrow at the ready for Gumayusi if they do want to start a fight, but they want to land one of these spears first. Start to connect some of the poke. As 369 moving on in. Cream's there towards the bottom side of the map as well. And he can stop Faker from teleporting over. There is the Rift Tail being picked up by Tien as the Arrow is going to barely miss onto Top Esports. And they'll make it out just fine. Emperor's Divide was used here on this bottom side as Faker is going to use the buffed up Honey Fruit to speed his way out. Oh, the Whirling Death comes in as 369 still chasing. Jackie Love is punished though! And Ono's just going to execute him. I was watching the picture-in-picture and he just pops.
Oh, it's such bad news for Top Esports, and now they're going to get punished again. 2 members underneath this tower. Remember, Tien has no flash.
Oh, hostile takeover comes on through, and that's going to be an easy pickup. Tien, the one in trouble, and Zeus able to tank up that turret so comfortably they can reset as Cream. He comes in. That's going to mean that Mako at least survives as 369 still trying to find some value here. There's the flash from Gumayusi. and he gets himself out, but that flash, a big cooldown. Next time 369 goes for this, Gumishi should be dead.
And even though the gold lead hasn't changed much, the impact of that play, the death of Jakilov to follow up on Titian is massive for this game. A brutal blow struck by T1, and they're going to be feeling a lot more confident now.
Absolutely, those stacks gone. So frustrating to deal with this. Now T1 still get the turret bottom side. Faker doesn't teleport here, and Jakilov just has no vision. He's so focused on trying to set something up for 369 bottom lane with his ultimate that he's not able to actually see what's coming here. They get the follow-up play here top side as well, and it's just a huge win here for the side of T1. And now you're looking at a world where Faker gets bottom turret anyways. He didn't have to expend his teleport. No teleport for Cream, who tries to turn that play around. And T1, it's a small gold lead here, but the wind is out of the sails now for Top Esports.
And the tempo advantage of having double teleport over your opposition when they get nothing for using theirs could not be understated. As you see T1 catching this wave in mid lane, and 38 seconds on the Chemtech Drake. They can keep players in side lanes and still contest for this if they would like to, but it's still pretty dark in that river. We'll need that hawk shot to really help them out, as Spears not quite connecting. But T1, they'll just move their way in, and you can see just how respectfully Top Esports have to play.
Also, no cleanse on Jakilov and flashes down for the entire top side of Top Esports. I'm looking at Guma's arrow as being a great way to start the fight. We have a 3-0 Nidalee. That spear connects on the back end of an arrow. Someone is going down.
See whether Gumushi's going to be able to line this one up, as the Rift Herald should be able to get a charge here, and it does, but not going to be able to take down the turret or anything like that, as Control Ward here in this brush means that Faker is going to be okay in the Shuriman battle carrier. Stunned up for the moment, will lose 50% of his health bar as Gumiushi takes his opportunity to enter the mid lane, start trying to clear this out as best he can. A little bit of an ARAM for now, but it's so much just trying to get positional advantage around this Drake that is freshly spawned. In T1, they want to collect their soul point. Big one gonna fly by here, as 369 wanting to find that flank angle. T1's vision is decent, but the dragon has been started here by Top Esports. Ona off to the side, wanting to stay hidden as he throws out these spears. Jakilov moving back. See where Gumiushi is gonna fire that arrow, as Carrier with the information. Handshake now on cooldown.
Fantastic
and the
angle for his
going
ult,
down
potentially.
lower and lower.
Let's just fight it out slowly.
Yeah, there's the hook finally going to connect there as now Zayas dives in. He finds the Q, and there's the all-out special delivery from the T1 top lane of Etienne. He's going to survive. Jakilov gets one back, but now Gumiushi is free hitting in the back line, and it's a double kill for Ona. It almost looked okay until it was domination for T1.
Stack's gonna get reset again.
Falling down, but thankfully the GOAT's gonna be there to help him out.
Yeah, not able to take him down. I mean, the stacks have been reset before, will be reset once again, and just the approach from T1 working so well. The Dragon gets denied, but I don't think they mind at all.
And Carrier in that fight on the flank angle with the Renata. The Renekton is constantly trying to push, but can't push through the handshake. So 369 is essentially out of this fight. He's not threatening anybody. And the front line here is Zayas. He goes down to half health, but look at this angle for Carrier. So easy to follow up. No one can peel when Tian gets hit by the arrow. And it's a one fight for T1 instantly as 369 tries to ult and cut through. Great positioning from T1, and they don't even need Faker's ult to win this fight. And then Jakilov hoping he can cash in, knowing it's probably doomed, but he's not winning the true 1v1 because Faker's there. Down go his stacks, and T1 with a 2,000 gold lead now. And we said the win was out of Jakilov's sails before. It's even worse now.
I'm gonna give huge praise to Guma there, because he was flashless. I felt like maybe he'd be a vulnerable target if they got on top of him, but he spaced perfectly, kept away from 369, and got so much damage down, so much slow, so much utility on this Ashe while being untouched until the end, where he obviously got low but managed to finish off Jakilov. So huge team fight from him, and things have just gone bad to worse for Top Esports. You gotta remember, they had side selection game one. Blue side has been really powerful in this series, and they are looking at being in a really rough spot when they chose to get on blue side in this one. Not an ideal position to be in.
Yeah, and I want to go back to the draft just a little bit, because there's one thing that's kind of standing out to me as to what's different for T1 and why they look so much better. And I feel like it's counterpick for Carrier. this Renata pick has been so incredibly powerful, and when Zeus gets to answer a pick that's picked relatively early, I think it's very, very powerful for T1 to allow that bottom lane to have that extra oomph and that extra control that they can pick up. Not to mention the fact that Owner has had a great early game.
And that's what you should be doing when you're on red side. I feel like obviously, you know, it's understandable teams have this heavy pride towards blue side, but even in the LCK, we're seeing some teams opting to go for the red side. And if you are on that side, you really need to get value out of that last pick counter pick, and I think T1 did a much better job of doing that in this game.
It's both great in the 2v2, but it's great into team fights as well. Into the Renekton. The Renekton, the biggest member here for Top Esports, can't walk past a handshake in that last fight, can't get in, is never going to have that much value from behind now into the Berserk to come through. The hostile takeover is so powerful here. And this one pick has really warped this draft. 6 out of 7 KP here for Keria in this game. It's a great shout that you give Atlas. Owner at the same number. He is now finished with his Horizon focus. So setting up for objectives now means you're always under threat of getting chunked out by one of these massive spears.
And have a look at all of this vision for T1. This is just after Top Esports went on a little bit of a clear out spree of the Baron area. You can see exactly where T1's focus is going to be. As the Crab going to be taken here by Owner. That's going to augment that vision even further. Faker able to walk past this turret as this minion wave is getting eaten. And that is going to be another turret to be secured here by T1. It's not a massive gold advantage, right? I think Top Esports still certainly in this game, but the momentum is shifting further and further towards T1. And we saw, as the setup happened for that last team fight, the amount of hurdles required to jump over here for Top Esports. They're going to have to really pull something out of a hat.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really difficult one, and I feel like T1 have been the ones really setting the pace of the game, and I think the combination of having like such good disengage tools, having the traps from the Nidalee, the hawk shots as well, means getting creative and finding angles of approach is tricky. I think what it might end up being is the best case scenario is you get like a deep TP flank if T1 want to set up an objective, and the key is you have to get 369 on top of the enemy backline. Until that happens, I don't think they win a 5v5.
I don't think so either, and handshake here, Arrow.
That's going to get the cleanse out of Jackie Love. Longer cooldown on that one these days.
But continuing the point, you know, I mean, there's not much you can do here as Top Esports with the Renekton in a straight-up 5v5 anymore. And, I mean, looking at the vision, the lack thereof, so difficult to even look up and try to push. They're going to try to shove this wave. Cream on the flank.
Yeah, Keria's going to take a lot of damage here. Desperately doesn't want to use Flash. He's going to invest the heal to get himself out of there. And as soon as the handshake missed, Cream saw his window and pounced. I really like the aggressive play as he may have put himself out of position. Faker moves in. The Flash Emperor's Divide is going to get the Flash out of Cream. That'll be the trade. Top Esports now looking for their second Chemtech Drake. They were able to take the last one. And now a teleport is coming in. T1, they want to get themselves towards Soul Point as the spear almost does it, but it's going to be the secure hook. He's going to connect onto Keria, but the hostile takeover comes in. The flash gets him out of there, and now it's T1 able to turn it. The flash from Owner almost gets on top of Jackie Love, and it's Faker that finishes the job. Double knockup, but it doesn't matter. T1 crush another team fight.
An absolute greedy fight from T1. No Emperor's Divide, not in position, but they commit the TP anyways, knowing that in this game state with the champs they've got and this Renata, they should be able to win the fight if they play it just right. Faker sitting on 2.5 items, so much damage, and this is post-Baron, so they're able to win the fight on Dragon, albeit they lose it, and then go straight to the Purple Worm. T1, that was extremely risky, but it pays off.
I feel like the big thing for me is Top Esports ended up so split with 3 of them in the pit, 2 of them off to the side, and when they went for the engage, T1 able to disengage to a comfortable position. And then I feel like the chase down potential is just so severe. You see T1 all sort of back off this angle. Keria gets a great ult that kind of holds the fight. And so we see Owner nearly one-shotting Jackie Love, but as soon as you start moving up with the slow, and you know, they're just getting another kill off the back of this.
Yes, I'll do the play-by-play for that one. Maker died.
Yeah,
sorry.
Thank you for your assessment.
You're
Yeah,
welcome,
I mean, T1 just really using their advantage so well here, and it's so hard to escape once you start getting connected by things like the slows from the Ashe, the Azir, and the Nidalee have so much chase potential as well with their mobility. Once Top Esports start losing the fight, it just goes south very quickly.
And Jackie Love, if he was big, if he was fed, if he had a cash in, maybe he could go toe-to-toe with the front line, but you could see his damage numbers are so incredibly low. He's just so low range, and there's so much engage, there's so much poke as well. And even without Emperor's Divide, you just can't get close enough. It's really the Zyra that's doing all the damage in these team fights. Even 369 can't close the gap. Sunday's turret to protect. They've got control wards here. There's no flank angle for 369, and the siege is on. T1 cross their T's, dot their I's, make sure there's no angle for the Croc, and just siege this up. The Baron working a treat. 3,600 gold picked up here already.
Yeah, this is a big power play for T1 as they are pushing both mid and bottom lane. It might be just this turret falling down as Hex Flash there from Mako just to try and put some fear into T1, but I don't think it's going to stop this tower from being removed. There it goes. Arrow is going to sail by, though, as the Grasping Roots also not finding the mark. Top Esports just losing ground because you can see Zeus, he's able to get some personal time with this inhibitor turret, and that's going to go down exceptionally low. Look at this poke damage as well. As these spears land, like Tien just has to go back to base.
Yeah, the poke's brutal. They try and get a play on a Faker, and he just dashes away, makes sure not to knock anyone else up with the ult from Mako, and then, you know, you've lost one of your only real major engage tool, and T1 can just go back to harassing, pushing, and applying the pressure. Also have red buffs in pocket, so any poke on them does get healed up, and Mako nearly goes down there. This is just brutal.
If anything lands, you know, and it's not on the 369, people are losing half their health bars, you know, guaranteed with this comp. Baker has Emperor's Divide too, so it's a big deterrent for any sort of hard engage to come through from Tian. If you wanted to try to flash ult, for example, the spacing is good from T1, but he's got his ult. They have Zeus as a front line here. They have the Renata ultimate, so oppressive is the composition here of T1. GA bought third here for Guma. Is already doing so much damage in this game. You're gonna have to kill him twice if you could do it once.
And it was a decent Baron power play here as T1 have moved over that of a 10,000 gold lead here at 27 minutes. And yes, game one from Top Esports of this series was faster. It was dominant from the squad, but we haven't seen that from them since. And in this game, it's all coming up T1 as they look to move towards match point in this series. That was Mako going down. It was basically what I play-by-played before. I had an opportunity to do it again, and it was just Mako died, guys.
In game one, basically it. He had a lot of isolated deaths because they had no vision. It was super one-sided affair, right? But you know, it's not the same type of game here. I mean, game two, excuse me. Not the same type of game here. In this case, he's on a ward, but there's an arrow available. You have to play respectfully. I think you've got to just give up vision in that case, but, you know, it's just a good punish from T1. He might get punished again.
Yep, handshake. Not quite going to find the mark as the arrow sidestepped really nicely there by Mako. I don't think he could have played that any better to get himself out of the way. And even holds on to the flash.
And I think the only thing that could really come close to costing T1 this game is if they overcommit into like a big Stranglethorns.
He's going to come through there as it's Carrier that's possibly caught out, but he just kills Mako. He's going to be going down. Yep. And that's Jackie Love getting a cash in the end. That's pretty cool. That's a little bit of extra money going over to the Draven, but he didn't have all that many stacks.
Yeah, it went from a 10,000 gold lead to like 9,500. So not really changing the state of the game, but at least Top Esports trying to find some angles in, trying to find some picks, because that's all they have right now. But 369 on the flank.
Yeah, Owner is going to spot him here as the Dominus has already been popped. You can see Faker. He's looking to get his way out. Zeus is very tanky, and yeah, there's just no way in. And it was already going to be really hard playing the Renekton in this composition. In this game state, it's virtually impossible.
Yeah, and that was the closest he had gotten since they got control and were pushing those lanes. That was the closest to a flank, the closest to maybe backline access that he was gonna get. Zeus picks up his third item here as well. He's at the Jack shows for a while now, has Randuin's, so difficult to break through that health bar now. And the Renekton that was massively ahead, a lane bully early on, just stands up to a tank Cassante now with no map control. His agency is limited. Now he does still have teleport, but there's no flanks for him just now as Mako, again, trying to clear some vision. T1 quick to punish.
Yep, there's the flash as Faker does have his flash available. There was a dredge line there, though, so not going to invest the flash. But, oh, no, as soon as the volley lands, the handshake definitely lands, and he's not able to get himself out. Mako dead once again.
Yeah, I love how they... Zeus looking.
There's the all-out as Owner is going to dive on forward. 1 versus 3, theoretically, here for Zeus, as the arrow is going to sail by. Looked fantastic. Emperor's Divide does nothing. Does it matter? I'm not entirely sure, because Faker's still going to be able to kill Tien off the back end of it. And now T1 with such gigantic wallets are looking to move towards Nexus turrets now and reach match point here at EWC. Oh man, even that hostile takeover, Jackie Love doing a lot of damage to 369 as Cream able to throw some rockets in, and T1 are looking a little worse for wear. So they'll take an inhibitor turret on their way out, and the game is not over just yet. Teleport coming in. Another possible chance for a flank here for 369. Does he manage to get on top of Gumayushi? That's the question. The flash has to come through. He still had the GA. The Sterix comes down. Zeus is dead. And there it is. He manages to get rid of him, and a quadra kill for 369. Finally, the Croc gets what he's looking for.
Finally, he's got the flank ward. Finally, he gets to use the teleport, and the Croc is unlocked. He gets in, gets 4 kills here, cleans up T1 with a game state. It's going to feel nice to shore up some of that gold deficit. You might be able to get a Baron out of this one. It's going to be pretty easy with everyone dead on the side of T1. You've got enough damage here. There's no punish, but you still are 3 inhibitors down. The question becomes now, how much can you get done with this Baron? Bounties available here, but you have to push through double super minions in all these lanes. But if you can get and crack that gold out of these outers, there is so much standing money here on the map for Top Esports. If there was going to be a comeback, it starts with a play like this. 369 finally getting it done.
It was massive there, and now, you know, they have the bottom him respawning, they have Baron buff, which can help them defend, so they have time, which they did not have before. But here, T1 overstaying a fair bit on low health bars, and 369 goes in, great target selection onto Faker, who gets the Renata ult, and then the Renata W. He immediately jumps on a Guma, finishes him, finishes Faker again, finishes Guma again, and then dashes out for the cleanup. I mean, just flawless play, and you don't often see like it when you're this far behind in the game and you're playing Renekton. You don't think he's going to be the star of the team fights.
No, I wasn't ready for it, Ox. I absolutely wasn't ready for it. There was a GA already purchased on Gumayushi there as well, but you find the angle, and he gets in there and trusts 369 to find exactly the team fight that he was looking for right after I had a conversation about how basically impossible it was to do so.
We saw him try so many times. He was trying to flank. He didn't have really a great teleport ward. T1 were setting it up really well with their pushes. They had the flanks watched, but finally he finds the angle, and he's going to try to give them a chance for a comeback here. The gold lead now shrunk down to 4,500 here, and that's without really getting any of the bounty gold of these turrets. But you can see the super minions here are T1's best defense against this. 1 inhibitor now respawns, so it's down to 1 super minion per wave instead of 2. But Top Esports still have to try to defend this as 369 look at the flank again.
Yep, this time Carrier is going to find him as the arrow is going to connect onto Mako. T1 looking to get rid of the support once again, but he's able to walk it off. The Aftershock doing a lot of work as they're not quite able to get this inhibitor. Cream immediately having to Valkyrie away, and there's the redemption. T1 going to be able to take down this inhib. Still, they want to be able to get the respawning ones, but they're not going to be up again for a little while. They'll just wait for these super minions to start rolling in once again and rely on the 6th man to really turn the tables.
369 CP isn't too far away, and really I think they need that backup again, and maybe even the flash to have a similar play than before. They're trying to find something, but it's so hard if you're approaching T1 from one direction. The Renata ult gets so much value in that situation, so I think you just have to weather the storm. Chemtech's soul can be secured by T1 in 40 seconds, but honestly, I think that's a major concern. Elder may be what this game comes down to if Top Esports can keep stalling out.
Yeah, and getting prio for that Elder is going to be incredibly hard. You're going to have to make a sacrifice. You're going to have to all in on it, because if you leave for just a moment, especially with Faker's TP coming back up, Zeus has his. You know, later on, I mean, we're still a ways away from that. You're going to have to let this one go. As you say, we get to that Elder later on. If the teleports are available, your base is still open and naked. There's only 1 Nexus turret left. You have to win the fight. You have to be able to stop the backs. You have a Draven, so it's possible. We're talking about, you know, 5-6 minutes from now when that does all break out. But there is a world where Top Esports could come back to win this. It is not by any means impossible. It's just the super minions, as you mentioned, the 6-man here for T1 as the biggest issue. They're farming, they're getting this Draven to more damage numbers here. But T1 just not going to make any mistakes. Those wards, the teleport wards, no longer as relevant here. This 369 couldn't find that angle moments ago when it was more relevant.
And a 4,000 gold power play on the Baron there as well for Top Esports. Really utilizing that to get them back within touching distances. And it's at 35 minutes, right? That a 3,000 gold lead doesn't mean a whole lot. You can see 4.4k in the lead is 369. If he can find another one of these angles, we know that it can work out. But if he spends the whole time walking towards T1, then that is almost 5,000 gold doing absolutely nothing.
And this
He's
is where the
trying to cut
pressure
this down as Cream not going to be hit by the arrow there. Zeus hunts for the third Q. And now Inhibitors back up once again. T1 right here to try and destroy them. And now 369 moving on over. Can he find yet another angle? He's on vision. T1 going to be very happy about that as they look to execute these waves. Top Esports not wanting to let these Inhibitors fall down. And that is Chemtech Soul that they have. It's not the biggest, but it is going to offer them that little bit extra here in these fights.
It's just so hard to approach in this situation. You really want to keep the inhibitors alive, because if they go down again, it's going to be so hard to leave your base. Baron in a minute 30, Elder in 4:30, but they're struggling to find the angle, and if you commit 369's TP and it backfires, the game is over. And even if you find a decent enough play, even if you stop them from taking your inhib, losing 369 summoners might be enough that you can't fight the Elder in a comfortable way. So a lot of decisions have to be made by Top Esports. What can they give up? What is worth sacrificing? And what can they not afford to give up?
And you can see how difficult it is for T1 to actually look for picks into this really fed Renekton as well. Like, they're massively ahead. They have these 3 inhibitors down, but it's hard for them to just say, okay, I'm sending it. I'm going to look for the pick. I'm going to end the game. They have to play so respectfully still. And the Chemtech Rift actually allows T1 to clear this vision, clear those teleport wards very well. They're doing a great job of it so far. You can see in these moments in the interim, some of these wards are set up. 2 wards here on the top side of the Rift now for 369 to potentially teleport to on their next push. And for T1, it's kind of a game of running out that Elder clock.
Oh, arrow. It is going to spot them out as the spear is going to come on through, and Ona will be able to steal away the red buff. So that's T1's red. Top Esports not able to get access to that one. And in fact, access to their jungle, it's at a premium at this point in the game. And they may have clawed back some of the gold advantage, but the map advantage has always been T1's after their early game went so well.
Found the ward too. One more up here to the top carrier nearby.
Oh my god! Okay,
Feels like old Italy's.
If he lands another one of them, Tien's just dead.
Yeah, now they can move towards the Baron where the vision really is lacking for Top Esports. If you have to face check into this poke, it's going to be brutal, but you can't just give it over for free.
And Zyra is happy to just press the button.
369's caught!
369's gonna get caught out of position. He flashes towards Carrier, but he just keeps him at arm's length. And the Crocodile will be taken down to his GA. And now Top Esports desperate to find some sort of retaliation. But there's even an arrow there to be thrown towards him. He's dead too fast for it to actually land. And now Super Minions are in the base of Top Esports. And T1 should be able to at least collect a Baron and then wander down the top lane.
Finally, they catch the Croc. You know, the Croc caught them last time, picks up a Quadra, but this time he's on the edge. He's trying to find the flank angle. They predicted. They cleared so much of that vision there for Top Esports. They knew the angle he was trying to take, and then they find him, kill him twice, and that's the end of the game.
Handshake comes in here from Carrier as Cream not going to get hit by the hostile takeover. And so will keep himself alive. The Flash is now down. All the inhibitors going to be down. There is one Nexus turret left available. And T1 should be able to get rid of that one as well. There's the knockoff from Dracula, but he cleanses and flashes, gets himself out of the way. Still Zeus gets on top of the Draven, and the Nexus will just explode. T1, match point here at EWC.
Had to be patient with it, but they managed to close it out. Even 369's Quadra wasn't enough to stop their win.
And now it is time, ladies and gentlemen, for us to go to a short break. When we get back, the studio is going to break it down, and then we'll have match point for T1. See whether it's going to be 5 games.
adventures bring new challenges. Even as the heat rises, dandruff and grease won't stand a chance. With new Clear Men, powered by triple formula technology. To eliminate dandruff, itch, and grease, gives you 8 hours of freshness and 100% dandruff-free hair. New Clear Men, 0% dandruff, 100% confidence.
Not often that you get to say T1 on the cusp of making history, but here we go yet again. This historied organization on the cusp of becoming the first ever Esports World Cup presenting League of Legends winners as they take down Top Esports in game number 3 to go up 2-1. But it was not easy when it came to the mid game as Top Esports battled back. They found a way back from a 10,000 gold deficit in around 25 minutes and make it very, very close, very, very difficult for T1, but T1 still get the job done. 1 game away from etching their name into the totems. Welcome back to the area. Degon alongside Joshi and Valdez. A lot of highlights to break down, so let's get straight to it.
This was one of the biggest things that we were looking at. Valdez, you were talking about how whichever team figured out how to find a win on red side first was likely going to be the team that actually took this down, and T1's draft here looked again like a classic T1 draft.
Absolutely. We started off by seeing the Azir and the Nilly, and we weren't 100% sure, but we really had to trust in Owner's ability to shut down 10 early and often, and he was able to do that so well. Also, as Atlas was talking about during the cast, the R5 Renata pick coming through for Keria was just so critical for some of those mid-game team fights to really turn the tides towards T1.
Yeah, and again, not a lot of people can pilot the Nidalee as great as we've seen from some of our LCK junglers, but this time, Owner is able to get it done. Let's take a look at some of the highlights here. Early game shenanigans happened, but here, our first one on the top side of the map for T1.
This is the first place the game really broke. This is Jackulov getting caught right as 369 teleports down to the bottom lane, trying to chase Faker, but not getting anything, and that's just a complete win for T1 all at once. They get Jackulov removing all his stacks. They get multiple people in the dive as well, which just means that all the time that we had spent from 369 on the other side of the map to try and find an advantage here for Top Esports ends up getting them absolutely nothing. And even though this didn't break open the game, this is where you start to look at T1 and saying, yes, this might be their game.
Yeah, it really did feel like it, especially Faker getting away there on the bottom side as well. A TP utilized to try to get on top of him, and Faker's just like, nope, I'm gonna continue with the pressure. I also get away, and you won't get a kill.
So some of the macro play from the world champs, getting them a gold advantage, which leads us to our first of 2 Drake fights that we're highlighting here.
And Kerio looks so good in this fight, Degon. Just the fact that he gets almost half of his team's damage in this team fight is insane. You actually look at how when this ultimate tags Jackie Love, he just almost blows up Tian by himself, and when Tian has to use the ultimate on a single person, that's a ton of this team's damage. On the other side as well, Gumayushi just made 369 kind of look like a fool.
Yeah, it absolutely just shows the value of that Renata Glass pick. Like, everybody's just right on top of that Drake. They have to fight there. It just covers the entire place. You know, the lower range of the Corki and the Draven not really able to handle that too well, especially if they're not in position. And then, you know, once T1 are fighting forward, they're able to take control of that fight.
Yeah, Redecta not able to get the flank. That's a little bit of foreshadowing here as we go to the second highlight around the Drake fight. Yet again, T1 coming away.
This one actually starts off pretty good for Top Esports. You see them pushing so many members of T1 away, but as soon as Faker starts outranging Jackie Love, the spear lands, and suddenly Jackie Love has no more damage left to do, and the team fight just collapses overall. I really feel as though this showcased a lot of things that we were looking at from Top Esports. Jackie Love, even on the signature Draven, just never able to get in on top of the targets that he needs to.
Yeah, and it's a big highlight to some of the members on the side of T1, like Faker able to have a couple of games back-to-back, really making a big difference, picking up the Azir once again. Now, there was a moment for Top Esports where they nearly came back in this game.
Yeah, we got to see 369 with this flash actually gets a massive engage. We were talking about it between the game about whenever Renekton has flash, he can put so much pressure onto the Azir and Ashe. This really showcased exactly how impactful that could be, and 369 walking away with a quadra kill.
Yeah, again, rolling the 9s here after a slow start by the Top Esports top laner. But yeah, this one's a 3 or less. He was sitting on the flank, gets caught on out. The rest of Top Esports not in position to punish, and T1 collapse on the quadra kill holder, gets shut down, and T1 then take the Baron, push to finish off the game here.
Not really sure what happened at 369 there, but, you know, Top Esports, they were actually doing a really good job of almost coming back in this game. It was a 10,000 gold lead, and then all of a sudden it was a 2,000 gold lead, and we had this gigantic Renekton, which unfortunately couldn't do it by himself.
Yeah, I wouldn't quite call it all of a sudden. It was a very, very measured defense by Top Esports that forced T1 to take it slow. Even with super minions in all the different lanes, they still were forced to dot their I's, cross their T's, and make sure they get the job done. With that pick, they were able to, though, and they go up 2-1 here. One game away from putting their key into the game trophy and becoming the first ever Esports World Cup League of Legends competition winners. Got to get that one right there.
Oh, I forgot a word. But the big thing that I really want to look at here is how effectively T1 was also able to neutralize the Zyra. We got to see that Tian didn't even get an entire full clear 3 minutes and 30 seconds into the game. This is a champion that's supposed to be 2, 3, 4 camps ahead of the Nidalee fairly early on, but he was never able to do that and never really recovered.
Yeah, now Top Esports in kind of an awkward spot where it feels like they did get a lot of power picks. They had a very strong top side of the map, but then they get countered immediately in the draft, and it kind of feels bad to play out this very long game where nothing really seems to be going right for you. You almost come back, but then it's kind of devastating when you lose in the end. So not sure what they're going to do. I assume they pick blue side again, but maybe you got to ban Renata Glass. I don't really know what the answer is here for them.
Let's go personality breakdown here. When you look at this Top Esports squad, we've had the big moment, the quadra kill by 369. We've had Cream step up and have multiple solo kills here onto Faker. Down in there at Jackie Love, making sure that the Draven was still humming along, even though he did get shut down. Who's someone that you want to see step up here in game number 4 for Top Esports?
Honestly, this is going to be an odd answer, but I really want to see Mako pick it up. We saw a lot of missed hooks that last game, and if he lands a couple more of those, very different game.
All right, Mako, again, has played with every single great AD carry from the LPL. Will he be able to pull one out so that they can force a game number 5, or will T1 become the winners? We'll find out after this short break.
Hi guys, Ginny here, and we are in the boulevard in front of the arena where there is a real life-sized trophy of the Esports World Cup. And just a reminder, whichever team wins the whole thing will be able to take that one home. But either way, there is a lot of competitions happening still, and we are in the middle of the League of Legends finals with Top Esports going up against T1. Both of these teams are fighting tooth and nail to be able to take the trophy home for the Esports World Cup presenting League of Legends and be able to insert their key into that final trophy. But regardless of everything, here outside, I want to say the air is a paid actor, but it's still really hot.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Esports World Cup. Finally, we're actually on camera, gentlemen.
Yeah, and I feel like it was such a good performance there from T1 because not only did they manage to play the map, but also map the plays. Fantastic stuff.
Definitely true. I think there were some real draft edges there for T1. A really risky draft for the side of Top Esports, and the shutdowns we saw on the Jaculov really kind of did them in.
It did, but now it's time to throw it over to Kangas.
Everybody in the caster desk, welcome back. Everybody to the Kadia Arena. We're getting ready for Game 4. T1's up in the series. How do you feel about that? The T1 fans are feeling fantastic. Top Esports fans, we're going to check in with you. And we actually have Kitty over there right now to let us know how the Top Esports fans are feeling.
Hello, everybody. I am on the other side of the arena, surrounded by Top Esport fans. We may be one down, but the passion isn't going to die. Everybody, on 3, can we get a 滔博加油？1、2、3，滔博加油！
But a again, the T1 fans just love the boo when they're cheering, so we're gonna give each other some time. We're gonna do battle chants. You were so good at doing it last time, but now we got Kitty to lead the TES side and me to lead the T1 side. We're gonna start over here. Okay, are we ready? All right, T1 fighting on 3, and then we let them go. 3, 2, 1, T1 fighting!
T-E-S, everybody! They're just as loud as each other, Kangas. I can't tell, but the crowd is absolutely electric.
All right, well, you have a flag over there. I didn't see T1 fans bring a flag. Who's got that flag by you?
Can we show the flag, everybody? We have such passionate fans in the crowd tonight. Woo!
T1, where's our flag? We got signs. What's this say? It says Tyler won sub in for T1 already. Can we get that out? Is that, yeah, there we go. I don't think they need him. I think they're doing just fine already. Just in case? All right. All right, fair enough. We still have the faker up here. Given the I guess that's our flag. Do we think that's our flag over on the T1 side? All right. Man, I love this sign. This sign's incredible. Kitty, let's find another sign over there. I want you to look around. Try and find a sign. I found a couple near you. But I know that the top esports fans want a reason to celebrate as well. And they're going to need to give your energy. I don't know if you know this, but the louder you sound during the games, the more energy you give to your players on the stage. So I want to hear the top esports fans make some noise one more time. Can you do it for me?
Everybody, I found a new, sign in the top esports sign. Guys, TES stands for Turn EWC Stun. But they were shouting Faker. We need to shout something back. Jackie Love, Jackie Love, Jackie Love.
For Pick Advantage game number 4, we're going to go back over the casters to get us prepared.
Thank you so much, Kangas and Kitty. That was absolutely fantastic. And the players, they need to map the plays. Kangas needs to map the stairs.
Yeah,
because that was almost very dangerous. Thankfully, he is going to be A-OK. And we are almost ready to get into draft for game number 4. This could be one step away from that 5-game banger that we all wanted. It's going to require Top Esports to fight back against T1 here.
And, you know, Top Esports have side selection again. They're on blue side, and they obviously can adjust from the previous draft. So, you know, they should be in a good stead for this game, but they have to win 2 games back-to-back. The next one, they won't have side selection, so the pressure really is on them right now.
And the draft adjustments we've seen from T1 have been quite good, you know, and we moved into a longer series here. It's a best of 5. They've moved away from the AD carry mids. They put Faker in an opportunity to carry on the Ahri. Then he has the Azir, and this has really changed the way that T1 can play around the map, early objectives, and that's the kind of draft I'm expecting to see here again for T1.
And, you know, we saw in game 1, one of the strategies Top Esports had was targeting the champion pool of Faker pretty heavily with the Talia ban, with the Azir ban, first picking the trust away, so definitely felt like something that gave them the edge, but they haven't been able to maintain as the series has gone on.
And once again, we have a little bit of a sound problem. Got to make sure that everyone can hear each other and everything is going to be A-OK. You can see that's why everyone's crowded around Mako's computer right now. And so we're making sure that we get to the bottom of it so that everyone can hear each other while they're on the Rift. It's very important.
It is pretty important. You know, I'd say it's definitely up there with things that we should have working.
Yeah, precisely.
So they will sort it out. Won't take too long, and we should be underway.
Yeah, and, you know, moving into this 4th game, we haven't seen something in this series yet like the Ziggs mid that was dominating from Team Liquid. We haven't seen a new strategy from either of these teams that's kind of meta changing. We saw the Ivern, obviously, but that's been seen before this tournament. I do wonder if Top Esports have something they've prepared, something they've kind of wanted to keep hidden until it got dire in this series that they do want to pull out, because again, it's a new patch, but T1 have had great reads on how to handle the bottom side, especially. I want to give a shout out to Keria, who's had a phenomenal tournament. He played the Renata extremely well, both of those games. He had the big plays to bring us back, or bring T1 back, that is to say, in that series against BLG. And I think he had a pretty quiet domestic split overall. He and Guma kind of overshadowed by Pays and Lahens. Did get crushed by them when they faced off against Gen G in regular season. But in this tournament, he's been extremely clutch. He's been very consistent. And that's a scary factor coming into this best of 5. And the draft around him, that counter pick on R5 you mentioned moments ago, Atlas, has been so valuable for T1.
Yeah, I do think that Keria has been an absolute linchpin. On the other side, on the side of Top Esports, oftentimes there's a conversation about consistency with this team. I think the one thing that they have shown this tournament is the fact that they have it. And they've been playing exceptionally well throughout the other 2 best of 3s. And if you were like to collect up the keys that were crushed on their way to this final, those are some pretty impressive names that they've been through. And if they're able to add T1 to that list, it's an incredibly impressive run for this Top Esports squad that hadn't been able to get much done internationally over their last recent attempts.
And you know, for me, 2 of the biggest concerns with this team was the jungle and mid. Tien is someone who has had some really rough underperformances when it's come to internationals. You know, got knocked out of Worlds on this Top Esports roster, also got knocked out of Worlds in groups on the FPX roster, but I feel like he's had a really strong tournament, and even going up against players like Canyon, like Yike, who've been very good domestically and internationally, been able to step up really well. And then also Cream, you know, a player who is overshadowed so massively in terms of experience by his teammates, and obviously had some solid performances when he was on OMG, but mostly sort of limited to those, you know, melee assassins. He's really had a massive glow up on this team and in this tournament, and it's just exciting to see the direction he continues with that trajectory.
You always love to see a new player rise to the top in a tournament like this and face off against Faker, who is the most experienced player basically of all time. So that's another exciting aspect of this. Faker really struggling at the beginning of this series, but bouncing back in a big way. His Zir game was phenomenal, setting Owner up for that spear in the early game there in game 3. He's also had a great series. And Jackie Love, I think, has been individually fairly impressive. I think there were definitely some moments in that last game which were concerning, but this is the kind of draft you run when you pick the Draven. He ended up getting caught, trying to make that play, looking for the ult in that skirmish that was happening bottom side. Lost those stacks, caught a second time, trying to save that play. He goes down. And his Ezreal play in the game before was quite classic, you know, on the bottom side, was able to make that happen, flash away. So I'm hoping that we could see Jackie Love bounce back in this one and maybe bring us to a 5th game, because he has been so good in the LPL right now, and I think carrying the rest of the momentum of the series forward, maybe he could be the one to bring it back.
We'll see whether he can, as we are getting some flybys here of the Boulevard and checking out some of the amazing shots, especially with those fireworks at the opening ceremony. They were absolutely amazing. Incredible atmosphere here at Riyadh for EWC. And looking forward to seeing who's going to be able to pick up the prize here for League of Legends at the event. Which club's going to be able to get a bunch of extra points there as well in the club championship. Another conversation to be had once we crown our victors here today. But that is going to require a victory here for either team, and possibly even 2 in a row for Top Esports if they do want to be able to claw their way back. They've done it before, and the other thing is, I feel like a game 5, if Top Esports are able to actually take this, becomes a lot more Top Esports sided in my mind. I know side selection does go over to T1 in that instance, but I do think momentum in a series is very important, and you add that extra layer of pressure.
Not to mention T1's Game 5 record in international tournaments with this roster has been certainly not on the side of the T1 fans. It has, slipped away from them quite a bit. We saw some international finishes where they were able to get it done before it got to 5.
Yeah.
But when it goes to 5, that's when things get a little bit more concerning. So I do kind of echo that sentiment because both of these teams have a huge representation in the crowd as well. And I think when you win that fourth game and bring that momentum back to you, even with the side selection against you, maybe that's enough.
Oh, we've got a countdown. I think we are looking to get into this draft as we do have Mako's audio. Everything's sorted out. Now 15 seconds before we get into that draft for game number 4. We're on the edge of our seats in anticipation. See what's going to happen. All right, let's unveil it and have a look at some of these picks and bans that are coming in here for game number 4. Already the Azir taken away, and I think Faker had a great game in game number 3. Makes sense to see that one banned away, and in fact, targeting him a lot here in this draft so far.
Yeah, I think when jungle is so impactful in the meta, mid is so synergistic with jungle that targeting Faker has made a lot of sense for top esports, and they really will look to hammer down. And that Renata, the impact cannot be understated, especially when it came in as that R5 pick. So not even wanting to deal with that, not even giving them the chance for T1 to pick it in the early rotation before you get to that second rotation of bans.
It screams Jaculev's going to play a scaling pick here. I'm not going to give you that kill lane in the bottom lane that you want. Faker's probably going to be forced to play something that doesn't have as much power. But consider this. Corki, if it gets first picked here, that same Vi setup with the Ahri is available here for T1. So yeah, you took the Azir away, you took the Talia away, but you may just give another strong jungle mid duo as well. Rumble is a pretty easy lock in here, but again, it comes at that heavy cost of the mid jungle. Corki also a consideration. Now this is where it gets scary, because now you get Vi, Rumble, and then you can take the Ahri after that. I think this may have been an error by Top Esports. And it's also Sejuani as well for Ona. This is incredibly dangerous for Top Esports. They were weighing this up. They knew that the Rumble was going to be a consideration, but they were worried about how it was going to fit with the rest of their composition, I guess.
And this is part of the problem. As you go through a series, problems arise that you want to deal with in the ban phase, but then it opens up things you came in the series confident you didn't want to give over, The Sejuani's been a pick they've been set on denying from Ona, and now they've had to let him get it in order to shorten Faker's pool and ban away from Carrier. Now we do see them picking up the Ezreal. I think this duo, the Ezreal Corki, works really well with similar spikes to the same items, and they also secure that Leona for Mako, a big pick for him, so strong bot side there. They have given up those power picks in the top and jungle.
And that Freljordian combo could come in here as well if they decide to lock away something like the Ashe. Even the Braum could be a consideration that we've seen Mako find a fair bit of success on, even though it's not necessarily our favorite pick for Carrier. There are so many things that T1 can look towards. I think, Yasuo? That's Yasuo being hovered for now. Let's not count our chickens, shall we? It's locked in. It's locked in. It's Yasuo. That's just Yasuo. It's fine.
You took away the Yone, but you can't stop Faker from locking the other in. And the Yasuo Sejuani synergy is quite strong in the mid lane into a champion like the Corki. The wind wall can be quite powerful into this champ. And you look at what T1 can put together behind this. It gets so interesting because now you got to ban out all the strong bottom lane champions. Sure, you took away the Renata, but you got to stop the Ashe. You got to stop the Kalista. Guma Carrier absolutely can put together a winning bottom side here. They already have the AP damage profile of the Rumble.
And there's a lot of flexibility here. Let me take you through some of the bottom lanes that we have seen in the past. One of them being Yasuo Sejuani.
Yep.
That does exist as a bottom lane. Don't know whether it's necessarily going to happen here. However, it is possible. There is Rumble Ashe that is still very strong in the early stages of the game. If Carrier wants to dive onto that one, you don't necessarily know exactly where all these champions are going to be played, because Gumayushi also has a Yasuo record here in the LCK. Or I don't know necessarily whether we can pencil it all in, although right now, it's most likely that all of these champions are going to the players that pick them.
It's got to be a Kalista ban, right? I mean, Caitlyn's still up. You've got Caitlyn, you've got Kalista, you've got Varus. This is where T1 thrive. An unusual first 3 picks, and then how many champs can you ban away from Guma Keria, the widest champion pool of a bot duo basically in League of Legends history?
Well, that's more knockups, and that's what Yasuo likes. And so they're going to lock away the Rakan. Xayah is just going to be free if they would like to pick it up. I'm not a huge fan, but it might come in. And top esports, I mean, these 3 champions are already extremely strong. We'll see what they lock in alongside it, as Cassante definitely up there on the tier list. It's just a lot of crazy coming in from T1.
Yeah, to me, T1 have so much layered engage, so much wombo potential. The wind will huge value into the Corki and Ezreal. I feel like a Kai'Sa would sync really well with what they have so far in terms of that dive there, but we'll see what they go for. The Xante is going to get locked in for top esports. They need the jungle pick. The Zyra has been banned away. Looking towards the Xin Zhao, I'm not super sold on it. I feel like with everyone diving into and being clumped up, something like the Brand or even the Karthus could have a lot more value than the Xin Zhao.
Well, Ivern doesn't necessarily add as much value as it would if there was a Tristana here on the side of top esports, but Tien's still going to lock that one in. And there is that Xayah Rakan, the lovers duo here. The Gumayusi Keria, I think it was 2022, looked the most powerful on. I think the lovers duo have fallen in priority over the years, but still very, very scary.
I mean, I think everybody who watches the LCK remembers that T1 KT losers final where Guma played the Xayah and absolutely popped off. In big games, when he has a draft that supports it, he looks fantastic on this pick. To play devil's advocate against T1 here with this draft of top esports, yes, the Ivern, relatively vulnerable, isn't as strong with the Tristana, but they have a great front line here. They have insane range, and you only get one Rumble ultimate. This setup here for T1's engages, yes, you've got the knockups for the Yasuo, but it's extremely conditional. You lose map control against his Ivern, he starts putting brushes up, it gets a lot harder to play this comp as T1. I think it's a great comp, I think it works out in isolation, but extremely risky.
Yeah, and I feel like Xayah into a composition that ranges you kind of feels rough, and also if your team's going forwards, hard to set up the feathers in return. Also, just when we talk about the laning phase, you know, Leona's a really good matchup into Rakan. Ezreal Leona is so strong right now, and Corki into Yasuo, that's just going to be a weather the storm matchup, because if he just Gatling guns in your face, you aren't going to win trades.
You're not, and it's been a long time since we've had a Faker Yasuo. It was a mainstay in the mid lane for a lot of his early years over in Korea, and has had a spattering of other games, but it's not necessarily a pick that we liken with him these days. It was something extraordinarily dangerous to be in his hands, and we'll see whether even now it is going to be the same thing, because it was a matchup into Corki in the past that was relatively good. So we'll just have to see how it's going to go. I love it though, when you mix up a draft to this level, and the fact that they get the Rumble Sejuani really allows you to throw a little bit of an extra curveball.
And I feel like teams often have these more niche picks prepared, but the opportunity doesn't rise, they don't feel confident enough to bring it out. Moments like this where you see a window, you still have that buffer where you have the 1-game lead, can be a prime opportunity to get a big edge by bringing out a more niche pick.
Well, now it's time to get in. You can hear fans in the Kidia Arena looking forward to who's going to pick this one up. I can hear some desperation from the cries here. We'll see whether it's going to be T1 taking this or whether it's top esports as the players make their way out onto the Rift here for game number 4. Match point for T1 here at EWC. Top esports wanting to bring us to game 5. A decider for them. T1 would then have side selection in the 5th game. They have to get there first in order to make it happen. And this is a weird draft. It's a fun draft. See whether it works here for T1 or whether, once again, Ivern is going to be a problem, because he was a problem in the first game as well. And you can understand why they go back to it. I just don't necessarily see as much synergy between Ivern and Corki as what we saw with the Ivern Tristana, which has been historically pretty good. Faker is going to be spotted here by a lot of TES members. But otherwise, it is just a pretty defensive start for both teams.
Imagine though a world where T1 is 1,000 gold, 2,000 gold behind at 25 minutes, and they don't have map control, and they have to fight into brush with this composition, with a lack of a strong front line outside of the Sejuani. It's really difficult to get into those brushes. It's really difficult to contest vision. Jackie level layers so much damage onto you while you're trying to get in there and actually set up that with the vision clear in those brushes as you try to approach dragons, barons later on. And more than shielding for something like a Tristana, I think that is the value of the Ivern here, as Faker's going to use his shield. A little bit of a trade.
Yep, getting some flow here as he's moving towards that tornado. See how he does go. We're not going to know whether he landed that one, as we've got Mako going in. Does utilize his aftershock quite well.
I love this sort of, it's something we saw so often in the LPL when Leona's always been super popular, is you go to E level 1, proc the passive where they go for that trade, and just on the back of aftershock, it's really hard to actually win against the Leona, and a lot of these engaged supports don't do that much level 1.
Ow.
That's painful.
Yeah, that's level 2, I guess, for Zeus. 369 gonna have to wait for this wave to come on up. That's absurd. Okay, making some money there as well is the Rumble, because of course you deserve to have more money and more damage at the same time, right?
Yeah, I think we can see why this champion's banned a lot.
Yeah.
Pretty strong, pretty powerful up there on the top side. The Leona matchup historically has been fantastic into Rakan. And as you mentioned, using the Aftershock to trade aggressively there, they outrange the Xayah. The damage numbers on the Ezreal Q on this patch and the previous patch are just so high that it's really easy here for Top Esports to control the bottom side. So while they have a bit of a hole into this Rumble, they have a strong point here bottom side, and that is right now where both junglers are pathing.
Yeah, Tien doing the patented Tien play, which is walk bottom lane. Gonna be able to put a brush in here, and we'll be able to see exactly what Owner's getting up to. I don't know whether he got full vision, but I think seeing the Gromp is being has been taken down gives him enough of an idea as to what's going on here. As there goes the blue buff. Tien possibly out of position though, as Kerry is going to move on over first. Gumayusi and Jackie Love are fighting. No more Blade Caller going to be available. The heal comes in to make sure Gumayusi is safe, and Tien is in so much trouble. Faker's going to come over. That's first blood for Gumayusi, and Arcane Shift gets Jackie Love out of trouble. But T1 with first blood and a big early lead.
Ends up being such a blunder there from Tien. Moves in aggressively, but the thing is, you don't have your smites available. You're not going to be able to steal the camps if Owner's doing them, and the synergy between the Rakan and the Sejuani, I think it was about a year ago, they made Rakan count as a melee champion, so he can stack that passive. And you see here, Tien has to flash early because he doesn't want the passive stacked on him, but then easy W follow-up for Carrier.
Guma does so much damage here on the side as well. There's nothing they can do. Jackie Love getting chunked out while this is all happening as they're pushed up too far. Faker gets the free roam because he's been crushing that mid lane matchup so far. And I think a lot of this comes down to the fact that it felt forced. You know, you have this Ezreal prio, you want to use it, but you're still an Ivern, you know? Maybe with a different jungler, you could have gotten more out of that.
And Owner, full knowledge of what's going on here. Tien not going to be able to land anything, and Owner's going to grab the second kill onto this tree. 369, he could do nothing but watch.
Such a devastating hit, and the thing is, you're flashless, you're going top lane to try and support 369 so he can crash the wave, but in a 2v2 against Sejuani Rumble, you stand no chance.
Well, Faker finds yet another knock-up onto Cream. Going to be winning out on that trade once again. As an old matchup, but a good one, as it turns out here for Faker. He has played a few games, 9 games, I think, to his career from what I can find. It's been quite a while since he played his last. We'll check out this fight once again.
Just so greedy here. Zeus also has the overheat, so can get the max value out of the Q damage there, as well as his autos. Owner has the flash available, so can just set up the stun. And this Ivern is so fragile. You know, I feel like it cannot be overstated how easy it is to blow him up. The same can't be said of this Aftershock Sejuani. So 2 aggressive plays from Tien, just answered by Owner, who's had such a fantastic series. You think back to his Nidalee last game, his early game here, extremely impactful as well.
And his Sejuani is just so incredibly good. You mentioned already, Orcs, the fact that so much had to be invested in early drafts to put Top Esports in such good positions. Take game 1, for example, there, and having to give that up to adjust to how the series has been going seems to have not necessarily worked out. Still very early days here as we tick towards 6 minutes in, and a possible gank opportunity as Tien looking to move up into this next brush, but I don't think that T1 are going to give them much of an opportunity here. So they look to stack this wave in, and the Grubs, they'll just go over to Owner. Full control of the map here for T1 in the early game.
And I feel like at this point, Ken is just so on the back foot, he needs any sort of opportunity to make his way back in. If you start falling behind his Ivan to the point where you're being invaded, it becomes so difficult to set up your camps and then actually cash in on them, and it really can start to become painful fast. So he needs just to find an avenue where he can stabilize the game and make sure Owner does not just run away with it.
Well, you can see Faker taking a few rockets here. Not going to have a wind wall for all of them. Has just teleported back to lane. I'm just looking forward to the first skirmish because we have level 6s coming in for almost everyone, as I'm going to hold that thought as Mako, he goes in. And Gumayushi taking a little bit of damage here. Jackie Love landing a few Mystic shots pretty nicely, but it's not going to be a full commitment as the Blade Caller not getting too much value here. And T1 are going to back away from the play. But as I was saying, I'm looking forward to seeing when we do get some of these knockups to start getting layered in, Faker getting unlocked into these fights, because they can create so much chaos for Gumayushi to just throw feathers at people.
Yeah, not to mention, if you keep people in the air during that last breath, you have the Rumble ultimate stacking on top of that. You keep them in place for so long during the ultimate animation that Zeus just burns them down. You can see why this is a good matchup for Yasuo, because he's got the wind wall, he has the passive shield. Don't want to be taking Gatling gun damage, that's where it gets a little bit trickier. But beyond that, you can handle so much poke and continue to trade aggressively. Cream finally turning this one back around. I want to mention briefly as well the items in the bottom lane. Guma going for the Berserker's Greaves early into the tier gives him so much power in those early trades like we saw just moments ago. And the Ezreal lead is just starting to fade away. In fact, behind now in CS as well.
Yeah, and I feel like particularly when you have, you know, a 2-carry composition with like a Corki Ezreal, when you go for that initial engage, just having the wind wall is so high value. Like, that's why we've kind of seen Braum being pretty strong in the current meta, but even more so than that, the wind wall just being such an immovable way to block all those projectiles. And it means while these ults are firing off from T1, there's just going to be a portion of the fight where Cream and Jackie Love just can't do anything.
Yeah, Tien as well. I mean, that snare is pretty important for the Ivern to augment these team fights. The fact that your teammates can then follow up on a lot of that potential engage gives 369 a way to get into a backline and gives Faker a way to deny that from top esports. So you can see some of the value here for the Yasuo, not to mention the fact that Faker will be a devil in a side lane. Don't need to tell anyone who plays League of Legends that Yasuo does like side lanes. Really does enjoy sitting there.
And Zeus is already so far ahead, and it's all, you know, part of that assist kill he got earlier, part of the first strike, part of the massive CS lead. Already 1,000 gold up in the matchup. Yeah. And we saw before when he had that lane swap situation, fell behind, still was super impactful in the Rumble. Now he's in a scenario where he's very fed already, looking real good for him.
Well, there's an equalizer. That's going to kill a wave as well as get a flash out of 369. Meanwhile here, another attack on the bottom side as both junglers making their way in. Control Ward goes through T1, get the information that it's an even matchup, and they are going to back away.
Looks like this could be a dragon opportunity here for T1, ending up pushing back the Leona. They have full prio in mid, and breaking through this choke point with Keria having level 6 is just off the cards. 369. Flashless topside, T1 winning everywhere again, and it's just going to be the Dragon going over uncontested. There's nothing this Ivern can do with level 6. It's not a spike he can use to really actually impact a fight like this. Not quite like a Zyra ultimate, not quite like something like an Emperor's Divide you could see coming over. He's there, but he just has to watch.
And I'm so sad that top esports felt like they needed this extra frontline in the Cassandra. You can understand why, but I just really would have loved to see 369's Kennen in this series. And we might get an opportunity if they can claw their way back. But Kennen could have worked kind of nicely, I guess, with something like the Ivern, but they do run out of so much frontline if that does happen.
I think T1 did ban it in second rotation. I think
yes, they did too.
They did deny it there, and obviously felt kind of locked into securing the Ezreal Leona, but really hasn't paid off yet. But I think the big thing for me, obviously top esports in a deficit now, but both the mid and AD carry have that Triforce Manamune spike together, and even if you're at a deficit, playing around that spike might be a good avenue to get back into the game. So top esports might be weathering the storm now, but that's definitely an angle they can look to capitalize on.
Battle Dance Grand Entrance not quite going to work out here as Tien going to get a flash out of Zeus in trade for his own. Mako was up here as well, though, as a big investment as far as bodies towards the top side. And T1 already on these grubs. Should be one of them out of this second 3 to go over to Owner at least. They might be able to stick around, and 6 grubs when they have so much power in side lanes with this Rumble Yasuo. it's going to mean that these turrets could be really in trouble. There's the 5th and the 6th, not looking like it's going to be contested anytime soon. And from an early game, there was just T1 finding, like, this was at what, 5-6 minutes into the game, that set them up for all of this cascading control around these neutral objectives.
And it's, you know, it's somewhat of a draft problem here for Top Esports or how they played it out, because if it, with a different jungler with that bottom side prio you had, I think that the Ivern could have, or anything that wasn't an Ivern could have actually maybe gotten something done there if played correctly. But the Ivern, 2 missteps early. Tian finding himself falling far behind. This Rumble is so far ahead as Faker.
Yep, gonna go aggressive onto Cream here. Puts down the wind wall, a very small one. As Top Esports, ooh, almost right there for the answer. Faker is going to be able to go in before the rest of them do turn up. As now Ona's moving in. There's the Glacial Prison. Doesn't get any knockups with the Arctic Assault, and so Mako is going to be okay for the moment. There is, of course, the brush that was set up by Tien already there. Faker still looking for a little bit more here as the Steel Tempest is going to run through the minions. Jackie Love and Gumayushi still trading blows as Carrier moving back down towards this bottom side once again. Mako and Tien in the area, though. He knows that. He is going to back away. So a little bit of a stalemate here, and those first early kills were definitely very impactful here for T1. But I think stemming of the bleeding has started here for Top Esports. We'll see whether that can continue to get them to those spikes that you mentioned, Wolf.
But I still think it's really big burning things like Cream's flash. Felt like he was a little bit on edge there, you know, Mako in position to block it, but ended up just flashing, wanting to stay safe. The thing is, burning that really is so important. I feel like for a composition like T1's, even if there's not much action happening, as long as you're burning people's summoners and getting those down, means when a fight does arise and we have that dragon in the mid 45, those combos are so much more threatening, and both Tian and Cream are going to be targets.
Zeus' lead, we talked about earlier, he skipped boots because he went for magical footwear, so he just gets straight into the Leandri, so that's a big spike for him wave clear-wise. Also helped him clear those grubs so there was no contest from Top Esports because he could just crush that so fast. The winning mid lane as well here with Guma coming over, grabbing 2 plates here. And it just feels like there's no jungler here for Top Esports. Tian is so far behind into this composition. He's so fragile with no map control. He can't even take his own blue buff here. And it feels like a 5v4 in this one after those 2 big errors.
Yeah, and it's so hard as this squishy Ivern, because if you step up, you get taken out, but you can't even really, you know, if you're starting to set up the camps, you have to be so defensive, you know, even going up as far as like your Grom might just end up wasting your time, wasting your resources, and it gets picked away, so really, it has not been a good game for a player who has had, honestly, a really strong tournament.
Yeah, this has been the most consistent Tien's looked in a really long time to me, especially internationally. And his performance in the LPL has also been fantastic. Unfortunate that we do have this game number 4 now. See whether he can turn it around mid-game, though. He is behind a lot of farm. But we know the value an Ivern can have as we get later and later as Ona's moving on up. 369.
Oh no.
Is going to be pushing forward. And this is looking a little bit dicey. Some Alcove Gaming going to come on in. Let's see whether the Cassante can do some Cassante things. And it looks like T1, they were thinking that that might be happening as the Rift Herald will be started by TES with a lot of people moving up that river. Daisy getting aggressive. Teleport to come in though. As you can see, Faker wanting that flank angle. He's on this ward. They're wanting to find that opportunity. The Glacial Prison does go wide. There's the grand entrance, and there is the last breath to land on the Cream. The flash over the wall. The Corki going to be taken out of the fight, but can they win the rest of it? Is going to be the question. The Equalizer avoided relatively well. The slowdown on Mako, but the health bar on 369 is massive. He goes all out. He's dancing around the fight. His Faker against the shield, and the Steel Tempest will take down 369 in the end. The flash forward from Mako, the desperation, but the feathers are there, and so is Jackie Love. He's dashing forward. He's trying to find these low health bars. There's Guma. He's flashing the triple kill for Jackie. Make that a quadra. And Top Esports are back in the game.
Huge team fight from Jackie Love, just slowly moving forwards on this Ezreal, landing the Mystic shots, picking up the damage. Huge pop off and a quadra kill to bring them back in the game.
And 369, 1,500 gold behind, is the man that helps them get it done. Plays this so fantastically as a follow here. with the flash from Faker onto Cream, puts him out of the fight. Equalizer is pretty good here, but 369 is ready to turn this fight around. Goes Mako, gets into position, helps start peeling for Jacula. Then you see the 369 re-engage, pulls on Faker, is unstoppable during the knockup from Keria. Takes so much damage that in the interim, Jacula has free reign. Mako sacrificing himself here so that the Ezreal can continue to push forward. And T1, no range here, no way to fight back. Guma tries his best, but the shields coming through from Tiana just too much. The Quadra bringing Top Esports back into the game, and Faker is not happy about it.
And I feel like in that situation, you know, T1 committed on a Cream, knew had no flash, took him out, might do so again. No, won't
Just
find
barely.
it. But the thing is, they used all of their ults at the start of the fight to take out the Corki. Didn't have the resources for Jacula, and he just thrives there. And now Triforce's finish won't be far away from Manami, and those spikes we're talking about approaching. See though if they want to contest this dragon that T1 have started up.
Yep, Hextech already getting taken down here by T1. And Tien showing that value like we were asking him for in that last fight, able to be that support even after Mako goes down so that Jackie Love can carry the